7:08, we're going to call the meeting of January 13th, 2020 to order, and we will start with roll call.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Councilmember Vaterlaus.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
We will have a salute to the flag led by myself. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to start off with a special presentation, a letter of commendation to Raymond Biagini. So I will read this letter of commendation. On behalf of the City of Pacifica, I am hereby pleased to write this letter of commendation for Raymond Ray Biagini, who has been an integral part of the city's Public Works Field Services Division for the past 34 years. Ray started working for the city in 1985 as Park Maintenance Worker 1. He worked hard and was promoted to Maintenance Worker 2, Maintenance Worker 3, Street Supervisor, and to his final position as Field Services Manager, which he held for the last 18 years. Ray is one of the most dedicated employees for Pacifica. He's a highly respected leader, recognized by his staff, his peers, his supervisor, staff from other city departments, and the city manager. The community, city commissioners, and city council have greatly appreciated his dedication to helping the community. Ray is one of the main reasons why Pacifica was able to survive numerous winter storms, including 3 El Nino storms with minimal damage. Ray received a certificate of appreciation from California Governor Pete Wilson for his work related to the floods of 1997. His strength is most evident in his ability to handle the most pressing of all emergencies with the right amount of adrenaline and poise. Ray is an avid sports fan, particularly softball, which he still plays on a traveling team. In his personal time, he gave back to the community by coaching young future MLB stars on the Pacifica National Little League for over 25 years, and now plans to continue where he left off. The City of Pacifica is very fortunate of Ray's services to its businesses and residents, and is honored to acknowledge his many contributions as Field Services Manager. The city is thankful for his efforts and dedication to keep Pacifica safe and beautiful, and we wish him a prosperous and peaceful retirement. Signed, myself, and I feel honored to be able to read this commendation to you, Ray. I'd like to offer Ray, would you like to say anything? You don't have to, but I'd like to offer my fellow council members an opportunity to speak to you. If you wouldn't mind coming up so we can sing your praises for a second. Sue Vaterlaus?
I've known Ray for, I don't even know how long. Probably 20 years. When he was coaching, my son played with his son, and he's always been a great guy. Does amazing things for the city, and thank you so much for everything you've done.
You want to say something?
Sure do. Ray, thank you so much for your leadership. I think your mark on this department and on your coworkers is evident and will be long-lasting. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, what can you say to a guy that's probably saved Esplanade more than anybody in the world? You know, all the rocks you've moved there. I was joking with him earlier. I said, you know, you're the guy that's had his finger in the dike holding the ocean back for so many years. Who else is going to do it? And he pointed to Lavaroni, you know, that he's next in line to put his fingers in the dike. But, you know, thank you for all the work you've done. You've probably been on every single street in Pacifica, every single block in Pacifica, and taken very good care of the citizens and the city itself. So thank you very much for 34 years of dedicated, hard work for the citizens of Pacifica. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ray, so much. Excuse my voice. I feel like you've gone above and beyond. You know, I've seen you at study sessions. You came out to the Pacifica Collaborative. You're really a part of the fiber of our community, you know? And I personally am really going to miss you, so just thank you for everything.
And Ray, I just want to finalize my comments with, you know, I've known you since 2008, and you've been nothing but a hard worker, and I want to let everyone else know that you have big shoes to fill, but I know that he trained you well, so we are in good hands. And thanks, Ray, for all your dedication. We look forward to seeing you at the Earth Day events as a volunteer and not a city worker. So we do have one yellow card here, so I'd like to invite up Lynn Adams to talk a little bit.
I don't know that I could say any more than you have, except that I've been working with Ray since probably 2005 for the Earth Day events, and if a garbage can is full, I send him a picture. If someone complains about dumping a dump mattress, creek problems, I call Ray. I visit him in the office, and you know, sometimes he might even have someone there. Come on in, Lynn. What's going on? So, Ray, I appreciate your help. I think last year you probably helped us move about 500,000 wood chips, cubic yards of wood chips. I forget how much exactly, but to the Lindemar side, and that was all delivered because of Ray, and they're still being delivered. And I look forward to working with Paul. But I have to say it's been a real pleasure to work with you as a friend and also as calling you and making sure something got done. I can't tell you how many calls I've had about garbage cans. Can you get a garbage can here? My park, you know, you're putting in cement. We don't want cement tables, and we got wood tables. So, Ray, I appreciate it. You always listened, and you got it done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Got another card here, Van Ocampo. You're next. Are you here for the commendation for Ray? Okay, great. Anyone else for Ray? I know you're all very proud of him. Ray, do you have anything to say? Can we take a picture with you?
Sure, why not? Take a picture? Sure, I'd love to take a picture.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you say after 34, 35 years of service? I was trying to avoid tonight only because it's a little embarrassing. Obviously, doing all this work, I have been gifted in raising a nice family. I raised 3 boys, married, and that in itself, the citizens and residents of Pacifica have been very helpful that way. So for me, the appreciation was that, but I do appreciate mayor and council members and our city manager for tonight's recognition. And obviously, when Lynn's talking about all these chips, it's something that I can't do all by myself. I got a great staff that I can't forget about. Obviously, without them, none of this stuff could have happened. I have a pretty dedicated staff, hardworking staff out there on these storms and dealing with the everyday services that are necessary for the city here. So again, I appreciate all your efforts in recognizing me tonight. I think we're waiting on another gentleman to show up.
We're going to take a picture with you, though.
Did
That's
Ernie
good?
make it? All right.
Great. Let's take a picture with you, Ray.
That's a little thing with Ernie. We'll have our morning meetings, and he's always looking for his driver's license or something. He might be a little late, so it doesn't surprise me that he's a little late tonight. I think we were having a little audio problems earlier, and that probably wouldn't have happened if I was still here working. So I just throw that in there, man. So
Great.
thank you again very much.
Can you take a picture?
Yeah.
Can I have staff come up? Would that be okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to come up, take a picture?
the end of the year, whoever's the head team gets breakfast bought by him or something.
All right, we're going to move on to the letter of commendation for Patrick Ernie Delasarte. Am I saying that right? All right. Woo. On behalf of the City of Pacifica, I am hereby pleased to write this letter of commendation for Patrick Ernie Delasarte Jr. Ernie started his career with the City of Pacifica as a temporary maintenance worker in 1983. After 3 months, Ernie was hired a full-time permanent employee in 1984 as park maintenance worker. He was later promoted to park maintenance worker 2. Ernie is a model employee, as you can count on him for any type of emergency at any hour in any type of weather. Ernie was dubbed Mr. Parks Division, as he claims he can single-handedly maintain all of Pacifica's parks and playfields. Sounds like some big shoes here, too. Ernie also has received many compliments from members of the public that visit our parks. His extensive knowledge of Pacifica Park history and infrastructure, including underground electrical and irrigation systems, will be missed. Ernie was instrumental in the development of Frontierland Park. Ernie grew up in the City of Pacifica, and his children and grandchildren have also grown up in the city. He has volunteered many hours of his personal time assisting in community events such as the Halloween Spooktacular at the Pacifica Community Center and the Relay for Life Cancer fundraising event. His roots run deep as people cheer, "Ernie, Ernie, Ernie," at the Fog Fest. Because of this, Ernie takes pride in the work he does for the city. The City of Pacifica thanks Ernie for his 34 years of service. With Ernie's hard work, he has left his legacy at all the city parks, and we wish him a well-deserved retirement. Ernie, thanks so much. I didn't get a chance to personally know you, but I feel like I do now, and now I know who to chant name at Fog Fest, so. I'll hand it over to my fellow council members and then ask if you have anything you want to add.
And I've seen you forever, and I just started talking to you this year. I don't know why we never communicated, but now we are. Now you're gone. I'm so sorry. Thank you for all the work that you've done, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ernie, I think we got to know each other first at Relay, probably, and all of your crew, all of your coworkers who support that effort so much. And it certainly gave us an opportunity to talk and walk and connect a little bit. And so I'm going to miss having you on staff, but we'll see you around town.
I would say, when I went to college, I actually got my degree in recreation, so I was really glad you keep the parks good. So you have probably had a bigger impact on more people in Pacifica than most of us have. If you run the parks, I think all of us have kids here, so every one of us took our kid to the park. So thank you for making it safe and presentable. And I know I've heard from people how they'd phone in about some tree limb or something, it's jumped on real quick. So thank you very much for all your efforts and the hard work you've done over the years. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ernie, thank you so much. I've been seeing you forever, and I figured out because you started your job when I was still in high school. And so...
Thanks for that.
No, and... Preschool. That's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. That means that we have staff in our city that we can count on and that we can trust, and that I know every time I've seen you, you've been working so hard. And so what I meant to say is that I just really appreciate all the time you've put into our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ernie, I'll think of you every time I go to the park also, because we spend a ton of time at the parks here. We have one oral comment before we ask you to say something, and it's Van Ocampo, former Director of Public Works at the
He
City
makes
of
up
Pacifica.
stories.
So he should not be trusted.
Good evening, Mayor Martin, council members, E-team. I miss you guys. I just came by to congratulate both Ernie and Ray on their retirement. Much of what I initially wanted to say have all been said at the letter of commendation that you just read. I agree both gentlemen are two of the most hardworking and dedicated employees of Public Works. They are indeed veterans when it comes to disasters and emergencies for more than 3 decades. Ernie is always one of the first ones to volunteer for emergency duties, and he often stays behind to make sure that everything is okay or it's back to normal. He is always available, that folks at the courtyard often ask whether Ernie even has a place of his own or like a house of his own. He is a true gentleman at work and especially outside of work. He is a dedicated father and breadwinner. He is always cool when it comes to pressure and never stresses out. Similar to Ray, he is also into sports as well. He's an avid Sharks fan and an excellent Sunday morning bowler. That's Ernie. Okay, the renovation of the Frontierland Park and the Roy Davis Park at Fairmont are just a couple of the things that came to mind as one of his, two of his fruits of his labor. So going to Ray Biagini is not only one of the most dedicated employees that I had the pleasure of working with, but more importantly, one that I can always count on. Much of the department's successes during my term as Public Works Director were because of his leaderships at the courtyard. He was my co-architect in preparing the city for the El Nino of 2016. If not for his forward thinking and proactiveness, the city would have lost the seawall, the promenade, as well as Edgemar Road near the fire station. Council, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to both Ernie and Ray for the hard work that they put in for the city all these years. Thank you so much, Ernie, and thank you so much, Ray.
I gotta admit, I'm a little surprised. I didn't think I was that good. Thanks for all the compliments. It's gonna be hard to retire. Okay, I'm lying, it's not. The city's given me an opportunity, first of all, to raise 5 daughters and 2 boys. I can't even add up the marriages, but that doesn't matter. My coworkers, they weren't just people I work with, they're family. We hunt, we fish, we party together. We buried friends together. And it's gonna be tough for me personally when it's storming and raining and I'm nice and warm in my bed and I know my coworkers, even the new guys are out there. It's gonna be hard to stay asleep or not wanna go out there. But I wanna thank council, city manager and everybody else who gave me this position, the ability to have this position. Thank you very much. And now I'm gonna go do whatever I want. Good night.
Ernie, can we take, Ernie. Hey, Ernie. Can we get a picture with you, Ernie?
First.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. I am checking to see if we have any yellow speaker cards for consent, and we do not. Would any council members like to pull items?
Yes, I would like to pull the minutes of the reorganization.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve
Okay.
the consent calendar except for the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Wait, I think I voted on hers.
You didn't.
See, it's confusing sitting there, Michael. You teased me the whole time.
Do it again?
Happen.
See my thing.
Oh, wait.
Working?
This one.
Mine worked.
Mine but
I
not.
think it's this one.
Mine worked.
Yeah, because
Yours
they
was
moved
slide up.
this. I put myself in front here.
Oh, yeah.
But because you see, there's like this here.
Yeah.
So I need to go down there?
No, this is yours.
This is mine.
Mine?
Yours is here.
I have to come way over here?
Yeah, you do.
They moved the monitors.
Yeah, we got monitors down
7
there. We
people.
didn't used to have the arms.
really?
Yeah.
7 for planning.
Yeah.
Okay, should we take it again?
Let's try again.
Let's vote.
Ready?
Please vote.
It's pretty sad. We've all been up here for at least a year.
Great, that passes 5.
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's right on that big monitor.
Okay, I just wanted to say that in the reorganization, I misspoke, and I said we got a grant for $150,000, and it was really $1.5 million, so big difference, and I'd like to correct the minutes to reflect that.
All right.
Okay, noted.
Do we need to?
We do a motion, right? Another motion to approve the
Yeah.
minutes?
As amended.
I move we approve the minutes of the, what date?
Reorganization.
Reorganization meeting
December 11th.
on December 11th, as amended.
All those in favor? Oh, do I have a second? Pardon.
Second.
Please vote.
Okay.
That motion passes.
Figure it out.
Okay. We will move on to oral communications. I have a few cards here. I can go through this oral communications kind of rules of engagement here, but I think most everyone knows you have a time limit here, 3 minutes this evening. Keep it cordial and you know, speak as you would want to be spoken to. So, first up, Tiger Big Stick.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. First of all, happy new decade. I was not at the reorganization in December. I couldn't be here that night, but since I wasn't there that night, I just want to take a moment to say congratulations to our new mayor, Deirdre Martin. And after that, I want to say, in the spirit of a new year, happy new decade, happy new year. And it's a wonderful moment to just pause and say, now that we are not just in a new year, but a new decade, a new reorganization, it's a wonderful opportunity to breathe and with a fresh slate and new steps forward, begin in the spirit of cultivating spirit of kindness and collaboration as the city eagerly awaits watching you find folks who are kind enough to use your time to trying to cultivate something that is beneficial for all parties involved in this place we all communally live. So thank you for everybody's service, and I'm looking forward to a new year and new steps going forward. The other thing I wanted to bring up, actually, it's not quite Pacifica specific, but is regional specific, which includes us. Apparently, there's Mid-Penn is putting together an affordable housing proposition to the county, which would be going in Moss Beach, which is unincorporated, so it's the Planning Commission of San Mateo County who's going to be hearing this on Wednesday, January 22nd at the Half Moon Bay Library at 6 p.m. Since affordable housing is a region-wide issue, anyone who has interest in affordable housing and having an extra 71 units available for our region, it would be a great opportunity to attend this meeting on January 22nd at the library in Half Moon Bay to encourage the planning commissioners of our county to, yes, please add more affordable housing. Or if you have other views, by all means, there's your opportunity. And if you can't make the meeting, certainly you can email the County Planning Commission and let them know by writing what your opinions are. I just wanted to bring that one up too. So thank you again for everything y'all are doing, and happy new decade.
Thank you. Next up is Chris Coppola, followed by Susan Miller and Jeff Morgan.
Hey, can we switch Susan Miller first before?
Sure, no problem. So Chris Coppola first?
No, Susan Miller.
Oh, roger that. You're up.
Thanks for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Susan Miller, and I'm part of the Rockaway Beach Neighborhood Association. I'm here to discuss my concerns about code enforcement in Pacifica. Policy states that it is unlawful for any person to clear or grub or cause to have cleared or grubbed on any private or public land without a permit from the city engineer. Policy also states that any person violating the code shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor. Policy also states that there is no clearing or grubbing conducted from October 1st through April 31st of any year due to rainfall, and that all erosion control after clearing and grubbing needs to be completed by October 15th. Patrick Mora, the owner of the property at 501 Santa Cruz Terrace in Rockaway Beach, has violated all of these codes. He cleared and grubbed without permit on 12/3/19 and 12/4/19 during the period when there is no clearing and grubbing. He did not follow code and do appropriate erosion control by October 15th for the clearing he did in July of 2019. I and other of Rockaway Beach Association members have filed code enforcement violation forms and talked with Gwen White in code enforcement and have been told there are no fines levied against those in violation, and that essentially all that happens is a slap on the wrist. Has a notice of violation even been issued? None of the association members have been contacted regarding any actions taken. Our neighborhood association members have spoken with staff at Planning Department, Engineering, Building, and sent letters to these departments, and yet violations continue. If there are no repercussions against code violator, then what is the motivation to stay within code? My other concern is that the Office of Code Enforcement is under the Planning Department, but planning wants nothing to do with a citizen who has an issue with code. They send me to engineering, who issues permits, and engineering sends me back to planning, who is over code enforcement. You can see my frustration. I would like to request that when citizens voice concerns that codes are violated and re-violated, that the Planning Department investigate, and if a violation is found, then follow the letter of the law regarding consequences of these violations. Thank you. I have a copy for.
Thank you. Chris Coppola, and followed by Jeff Morgan and Greg Jones.
Thanks.
So I am also a member of the Rockaway Beach Association. And I would just like to ask tonight if, for the council members to research the number of consequences and/or fines that the planning department or code enforcement have assessed contractors for violations during the preparation of sites and building process in the last 20 years. The results of this study will explain why neighbors are frustrated by some contractors who continue to do exactly what they want to do, even if they violate land use and development policies. After all, what do you do after the road is cleared? Non-enforcement of policies by the city causes not only distrust of potential development, but distrust of some developers and the city. These incidents send the message that the city is unable to effectively provide the structure and framework to guide a successful community process for planned development. I urge you look into this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Jeff Morgan, followed by Greg Jones, followed by Lynn Adams.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Jeff. Thanks for the time. I'm here also with the Rockaway Beach Association supporting Susan and the many others that are here regarding this code enforcement. I don't have any, they have all the details for you in their letters. I'm just here to support them and also just kind of say that, we love Pacifica, we love our neighborhood, we love our homes. We make massive investments into not only our property, but also in property taxes. And to see somebody who's coming into our neighborhood, who's not from our neighborhood, and not following the code and violating that, even in these couple instances that have already been mentioned, there's still a lot more project for this person to follow through with to be able to complete their home rebuild and Paper Street building. And if that's the kind of person who's going to violate code just in the beginning like this, I hate to see what's going to happen in the future. And obviously, we're frustrated about the lack of code enforcement, and so we just want to here to voice our concerns and make sure that that everyone's following the law here. When I remodeled my home, I went ahead and did everything I had to do to follow code and got permits and all that, and I don't see why this person can't. There's a lot of young families on our block, and it's dangerous what this person's doing, not doing erosion control. Who knows what's going to happen to the neighborhood and our property if this person's not following those standards. So I want here to voice my concern. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Greg Jones is next, followed by Lynn Adams.
Hello, my name is Greg Jones, and I'm also a member of the Rockaway Beach Neighborhood Association. I fully support the statement by Susan Miller and others in our region regarding the code enforcement in Pacifica. In response to actions taken by Patrick Mora, the owner of the property at 501 Santa Cruz Terrace in Rockaway Beach, I submitted the following code enforcement complaint on December 4th, 2019, and I have received no response to date. Quote, Mr. Mora has sent a team of laborers out to Santa Cruz Terrace where he is clearing and grubbing without a permit on Monday, December 2nd and Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. In addition to a clear permit code violation, one major concern is that the timing of this work occurred after heavy rains of the week of November 25th, 2019, and during periods of rain during the week of December 2nd, 2019, which will cause significant environmental damage, soil erosion, and increased storm runoff into the drainage on Rockaway Beach Avenue that is already overflowing. Also note, no grading should occur, as Susan said, between October 31st and April 1st. This permit violation is yet another instance of ignoring the rules, codes, and law by Mr. Mora when he previously cleared and grubbed well past the 5 p.m. curfew based on his permit on multiple days during the week of July 15, 2019, illegally cleared and grubbed on Saturday, July 20th, and appeared to perform illegal grading during the week of July 15, 2019. See permit number E19-152. Photos of evidence are available upon request, unquote. So today I walked along Santa Cruz Terrace to observe firsthand the impact caused by Mr. Mora. He has graded into the hillside to carve out a road, leaving exposed dirt and roots with absolutely no erosion control in place, including some exposed areas almost as high as my waist. Furthermore, he has cleared the hillside of trees and bushes that extend far past the parcel at 501 Santa Cruz Terrace, cut down numerous trees, trimmed back much of the native redwood trees and left large piles of branches that are left alongside of the road. The larger scope of my concern for residential development in Rockaway Beach, and specifically on the, quote, paper streets such as Santa Cruz Terrace that are on the hillside that is designated by Pacifica as Hillside Preservation District, is that there is no evidence of 1, planning, 2, local government oversight, or 3, comprehensive studies on environmental impact caused by development. I am requesting that all current and future development in Rockaway Beach be accompanied by these 3 pillars of responsible building practices. My final specific concern regarding 501 Santa Cruz Terrace is regarding public fire safety. The current plan by Mr. Moore is to pave a dead-end road starting at Bayview Road that ends at his property. This hillside is designated by FEMA as wildfire zone, and the residents in this area pay a lot of extra insurance due to that designation. In the event of a fire at this property or in the surrounding area, Pacifica Fire Department will have no choice but to approach the fire from the narrow Bayview Road with no options for potential residents of Santa Cruz Terrace to escape. I am shocked that any agency that would review this development plan would not require a second access road that connects directly to Rockaway Beach Avenue on the west side of the property. Thank you for your time and your public service. Kind regards, Greg Jones, and representing my wife, Nalima Cuddy Jones, 154 Bayview Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Adams, followed by Jillian Brayley and Mike Vernaza.
Good evening. I just wanted to invite you and the public to join us for the Martin Luther King Day of Service. We have it coming up on Saturday, the 18th of January, which is this coming Saturday. We have a cleanup at Lindemar starting at 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. And then the beach planting, the annual, I think this is the 23rd year, if I'm not mistaken, the 23rd year of planting the beach at, and we'll be planting north of Crespi along the bike path there and down by the dunes. So if you're able to come, I please invite you. Also, I invite you to the February 7th surf movie. This year it's going to be The Great Highway. It's on February 7th. We have 2 shows, one at 6, one at 8:30. It's always a fun time. It's an event. It's not just a movie, it's an event. And I invite you to join us. Finally, I ask you to mark your calendars, save the date for April 25th. Our Earth Day event is going to be the 50th anniversary of Earth Day in the United States and in the world. So it's kind of a really awesome day, and we're really looking forward to it. We will be honoring and learning about albatross this year. I'm sorry, I'm looking for something here. The last thing I'd like to do is give you a little bit of we finished up our year. We had a terrific year last year, and I just wanted to give you some simple numbers. Number one, 13,672 volunteers were engaged last year. We had 8 monthly cleanups. Every month we had 8 different cleanups and restoration events. We had 26 site captains that participated and lead all those cleanups, all volunteers. We removed 3,000 pounds of recycling, 20,000 pounds of trash. We hosted 44 habitat restoration projects between Rockaway and Lindemar, engaging pretty close to 1,500 volunteers. We had 1.4 thousand volunteers who came to help restore the coastline, did the habitat restoration. We planted over 600 native plants, and we removed 33,000 pounds of green waste, so weeds along the coastal trail, which is down from last year as planned, because once we're removing the weeds, we're getting less coming back. So thank you very much for your support. I hope you all can join us, and thank you for your continued support and spreading the news about our awesome events. Thank you.
Glenn, Julian Briley, and followed by Mike Vernazza, and that's all I have.
Hi, my name is Gillian Briley. I live at 106 Bayview, and I'm also a member of the Rockaway Beach Neighborhood Association. And I'm here tonight to stand in support of my neighbors and request that everybody take a very good look at our code enforcement situation and hopefully find solutions that we can all live with. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Vernazza.
Hi, how are you? Kind of an intertwined topic. A lot of it based around affordable housing in the area. I'm extremely concerned about what's passed at the state level with ADUs and SB 50 coming down. And I think some of that is offset in terms of true affordable housing with the with a lot of the testimony from the last Planning Commission, where many of the housing properties are being bought by investors and put on Airbnb, and that's just raising the actual asset price of our properties here in Pacifica and San Mateo County. I think the city manager can understand, being a Haas Business School graduate. It pushes people into situations where normal people, like the people we celebrated earlier, really probably could never afford a house here again. I busted my butt to get here, and I feel very fortunate to be part of this community. And to see people on, San Pedro Terrace living in RVs because either they've been in a tough situation or maybe not mentally capable of handling a job that requires the kind of money to get yourself into this town, ends up, having no resources, throwing their trash in the creek, squatters throwing their trash in the creek, and then it flows down to the beach. This I picked up this afternoon walking my dog on Lindemar at about 100 yards, one walk. It's about 4.5 pounds of trash, which does include a heroin needle. A little upsetting for somebody that has been here my entire life, loves the beach, wants to see it clean. But I really want to understand who's willing to step up and push things like Airbnb out of here so that the asset price isn't artificially inflated. Lastly, if it's not something that's willing to be, addressed or at least considered, I will be exploring the amount of signatures required to put it on a referendum. Because I hear all this talk at the state level, the county level, but really, even in the language with the ADUs that we're going to address and accept later today, the only people that are required to actually live in an ADU are actual single-family home residents. It doesn't include investors, it doesn't include government agencies or land trusts. So effectively what you're saying is investors can come in here, buy single-family homes and build a whole nother address up to 1,200 square feet and effectively make that parcel go from $4,000 to $5,000 a month in revenue to $10,000 to $12,000 a month in revenue. And I'm extremely concerned as an MBA graduate in investment finance. It is terrifying for me to see this stuff happening in our tiny little community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more yellow cards, I will close oral communications and open the floor for council communications. Anyone have anything to share? Mike?
Well, just like a lot of things, the county government, city government kind of shuts down the last 2 weeks of December. The only thing I've really done the last 2 weeks was I was lucky enough to be able to be the master of ceremonies for a Eagle Court of Honor for Boy Scout Will Maurer, who grew up here in Pacifica, and he earned his Eagle Scout event this last Sunday. And I'd also like to invite everybody we don't really, it's kind of silent and stealth, but there is a state senate election this year, and the primary is in March, and the Pacifica Democrats are having all the candidates come to their meeting this Saturday at 9:30 at the Sharp Park Restaurant. So if you want to know which candidate you would like to support in the March primary, this is your chance to be able to see him face to face and maybe ask some questions. So just wanted to put that out there.
What time, Mike?
9:30, yeah, at Sharp Park Restaurant, Pacifica Democrats.
Okay. Mary?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight and being civically engaged. It's really important that you're here. And I want to thank the people from Rockaway Beach for coming together, and it's really important when people show up from neighborhoods and share their experiences and their concerns with us, because if that doesn't happen, we're not going to know about it. And so I'm really glad that you guys are here. I appreciate you very much. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my co-counsel, city manager, and everybody who supported my decision to leave town unexpectedly because of an emergency in my family before the holidays. It's a wonderful thing when our co-counsel can support each other. And so thank you. Thank all of you. Having said that, I was really sorry to have missed the reorganization meeting, so I'm going to take this time to kind of reflect on my year and to thank my co-counsel for their service. So Sue Bartlos, I'm going to start with you. I want to thank you for your commitment and all of the time that you put into being mayor. I think you attended more community events than probably anybody ever has. And so your persistence and your commitment, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Deirdre Martin, for becoming our mayor. I look forward to your strong leadership, and I was fortunate enough to sit with you on the Park, Beach, and Recreation Commission, and so I saw your facilitation skills, so I'm really excited to have that be a part of our council, and I look forward to your commitment to the environment and everything that you bring to the table. Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer, that sounds pretty good, huh? I look forward to all that this year brings you and to the following year when you too can hopefully become mayor. And Council Member O'Neill, thanks for supporting me so much for my first year. Thank you to all of you for supporting me. That's all I got tonight.
Great. Sue Bartlos.
I did attend some events. I went to bowling with the staff. That was fun. I love to have fun, and that was fun. Colma Creek meeting, on the other hand, the most boring meeting I've ever been to. I went to the CCAG legislative, CCAG regular meeting. We held a small staff party, and I would like to thank all the people from the staff who did attend our party from the council. It was really nice that you came. And that was for the staff and the committees and commissions. And thank everyone who came. I went to the SAMCAR Board of Directors, which is the Association of Realtors for San Mateo County, and the PRC Board for my first time. And that was quite interesting. Learn something new every day. Thanks.
Great. Sue Beckmeyer, David?
I really didn't do a lot, except enjoy the holidays, I must admit. I did attend 2 meetings in December before I took off for Tahoe. We had the gathering at the Moose Lodge December 16th, which was council members, staff members, and committee and commission members that could make it. Apologies to Planning Commission and planning staff because it was a Monday night. And I do apologize for that, but, you know, timing. But that was a nice thing, and it was nice to have an opportunity, especially for the committee and commission members who don't always see each other, to interact. And I was really happy to see a lot of cross-discussion going on. I attended the Jefferson Union High School District reorg on December 17th, and that was beneficial for me just because of my work, but also because Andy Lee had been the outgoing president. He's a Pacifican. So that was it. And then off to Tahoe and right into the holiday cycle. Back at it now, ready to go, and looking forward to the year. Thanks.
I wanted to say too that the accessory dwelling units, the Association of Realtors is having an accessory dwelling unit workshop. We have someone from the county coming. One of our planners is attending, and we have a builder who has built several accessory dwelling units. And that's Saturday, the 25th, from 10 to 12 at Sharp Park Restaurant. We'll just be there a lot. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Lynn's, already announced most of the things I was going to announce for the Beach Coalition. Actually, this past Saturday, we had to clean up at Sharp Park, which I had to bow out of because I had a Peninsula Clean Energy retreat, but They collected 60 pounds of trash and almost 1,000 cigarette butts. Folks, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. So let's just continue to socialize the idea that cigarettes need to go in proper receptacles. Surf Movie fundraiser, February 7th, and that money is raised for Earth Day. So any money that is raised by the Beach Coalition at the Surf Movie fundraiser, we put right back into this community for advocacy, school assemblies, education, materials, and the Earth Day event. So it's a great event, this Surf Movie fundraiser. It's one of my favorite of the year. I hope you all can come. That's February 7th. There's 2 showings. Check the website. This weekend is MLK Day of Service from 9 till noon. There's a cleanup followed by a planting. I hope you all can make it. It's at the start at the Lindemar pump house, right? Parking lot, yeah. Okay, and then Earth Day is on 4/25. Lynn already talked about that. So get your sign-ups, think of a project, you want to be a site captain, always looking for new site captains. So this past Saturday, I attended, gosh, it feels like we do a lot of these retreats for Peninsula Clean Energy, but they always are awesome. And we were down in Menlo Park for almost a full day, talking strategy, vision, mission, clean energy, and it's all council members, and their Peninsula Clean Energy has 2 county supervisors on our board, which is super helpful. Supervisor Dave Pine and Supervisor Carol Groom, who generally talk about how, San Mateo County is in a climate state of emergency. They have declared that already. I would urge the City of Pacifica and my fellow council members to look to the county and think about that for ourselves. All of the other cities in San Mateo County are also talking about it, and we're talking about how to get clean energy and education and action out to the people who don't know about it, and maybe people who couldn't afford it. But the idea is that make clean energy the easy choice for everyone. So we're getting ready to probably refine our mission statement, but it'll revolve around something like that. And it's always an amazing time to be in this space with people who know so much about our environment, who know so much about clean energy and how we get it and its effects. And also we're talking about PG&E a lot. We're talking about PG&E becoming a customer-owned entity, just basically dealing with wires and pliers and transmission, and how do we just make clean energy the easy choice and the affordable choice. So stay tuned for more, but also stay tuned for a lot of deals, I would say. Peninsula Clean Energy makes really great relationships, builds really great relationships with car dealerships, and you can get an electric vehicle at a lower cost, something comparable to a $34,000 car you could get for $25,000. Also, Peninsula Clean Energy is offering used clean or electric vehicles for folks who wouldn't be in the market for a new vehicle. But a lot of the programs are going back, and the money is going back into trying to get charging stations at places that don't have them and places that need them, such as apartment buildings, maybe lower income housing, so they can purchase that pre-owned vehicle and also charge it at their apartment building. Just needs to be the way we think now. So thank you for entertaining that information. I also wanted to say, we went to our ethics training this past week, which was great. Thank you, Sarah, for organizing that. I don't know why, but this year felt so pain-free. In the past, I don't know why. I think maybe it was just a setup, but I think you did a really great job, and thank you for that. Also, the Sports Hall of Fame, the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame that Horace Hinshaw puts together, I think almost single-handedly. It's coming up on February 28th if you're interested. I'm pretty sure you can find some tickets for that. But I just kind of want to add this little personal note. 2 years ago, the woman who watches my daughter 5 days a week, her husband, Ryan Gordon, was honored at the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame, and he holds the record for, I think it's football, it could have been baseball, maybe also basketball, but the whole family is, you know, amazing at all of these things. And I think the only person that beat him was maybe his brother. But I wanted to give a shout out to their son, actually, who played quarterback this year at Washington State. He was quarterback for the Washington State Cougars. He started out at City College. He was drafted. He went up there. He put in his time, and he started, and he got, I'm going to get this wrong, but like the most passes or something. He won the passing record for the nation. And HBO did a special, and I just want to say Gina and Ryan did a great job raising Anthony, and Anthony's out there and he's training hard, and we'll see what comes through for him. But February 28th, Sports Hall of Fame. Thanks for letting me divert on that. With that, I will close council communications and lead to staff communications.
Can I just say one more thing? I just wanted to thank everybody who gave for the year and giving for the Pacifica Resource Center. It's really, really appreciated.
Great.
Thank you, Mayor Martin and Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer and council members. Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager. I have a few announcements. One, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Beach Boulevard seawall. We spent some time at the beginning of this meeting honoring longstanding public works employees and all of the hard work they do. And I wanted to mention, the council is aware of this as is staff, but just for the public's sake, that earlier last week on our what have become more routine maintenance inspections of the seawall, we did find a breach of the seawall. But we caught it early. It was just north of the pier, and it was a rather large breach, but thanks to the diligent public works efforts, we were able to jump on it, get an emergency permit from the Coastal Commission, and take care of that breach. It required quite a large excavator, some additional rocks that we had stored here at this site to bolster up the revetment there, and it was all patched up within a matter of days. So I believe the final top off on the promenade was completed Saturday morning. There were a couple long days in there. But I'm mentioning this because the state of the seawall continues to be a concern, and that's why we received the funding from the state, the $1.5 million in funding from the state to begin our design work, our conceptual design, feasibility planning work, and the RFP for that work is going to be coming out shortly here, and it's just an incredibly important project in Pacifica. So the fact that we had another breach, caught it earlier, that's all great, but this work continues to be really important and a lot of focus, and thanks to Public Works staff for their hard work on that. Switching over to a couple things, I wanted to talk about money, yay, because we received our SB2 grant funding. Council had authorized our application to that earlier and in November, and we found out over the holidays that we did receive the $160,000, which will be applied to the Sharp Park Specific Plan project and free up some money to be applied to other planning projects. Additionally, over the holidays, we received a final payment. You remember Circa Nukinen Estate, who she granted a large amount of money to senior services, and we received the final payment from the estate of $391,000, bringing the total received by Circa to $2.14 million for senior services. So that's an incredible resource to the city of Pacifica, so I really wanted to mention that. And then finally, in terms of upcoming meetings, the Sharp Park Specific Plan Community Meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 29th, 6:30 to 8:30 We have quite a few RSVPs to that. I believe the location is still remaining to be the Little Brown Church, unless that has changed. I'll look to Ms. Weremeister. It's still at the Little Brown Church, and a good response, but that's an important meeting, really focused on the Sharp Park area, the future of the Sharp Park area. So encourage community members to attend that. And that completes my comments.
Thank you. All right, great. So we will move on to public hearings. Question, City Attorney. Do I have to read the whole item number 6, the whole introduction of an ordinance? No. Okay. So we're going to move on to public hearings, and this item is an introduction of an ordinance to amend various articles of Chapter 4, Title 9 of the Pacifica Municipal Code relating to accessory dwelling units, etc. That good enough? Yes. Great. So I will ask for a staff report. And I apologize, I can't really see you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Martin and council members. I am Associate Planner Bonnie O'Connor. In October 2019, the California Legislature enacted Senate Bill 13, Assembly Bill 68, and Assembly Bill 881, effective January 1, 2020, further amending the government code sections that regulate the establishment of accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and junior ADUs, respectively, junior ADUs. These ADU bills further reduce the already narrow range of standards that a local agency can impose on ADUs and junior ADUs. These changes have caused the city's current ADU regulations to be out of compliance with state law. Language in the government code section addressing ADUs nullifies and voids local ordinances that do not comply with its provisions. Therefore, staff prioritized these amendments to maintain local control over future ADU and JADU applications. The Planning Commission considered the draft ordinance on December 16, 2019, with the understanding of the limitations the state had placed on local agencies regarding the regulations of ADUs and JADUs. The Planning Commission was hesitant in providing further leniency towards allowing ADUs than already required by the state without applying local regulations that they found appropriate. The Planning Commission directed staff, as part of their recommendation of the draft ordinance, to insert the distance between structures and the street width requirements that currently exist where we were able to. Planning Commission approved the recommendation of the draft ordinance for council's adoption by a vote of 6-1. The draft ordinance primarily focuses on maintaining consistency with the revised government code. The most notable changes that were made include reducing rear and side setbacks for ADUs, removing the 26-foot street width standard and the 10-foot distance between structures standards for specific ADUs, removing the owner occupancy requirement, removing the need to provide replacement parking for the primary dwelling structure when converted into an ADU, adding mixed-use zoning districts and multifamily dwelling units to the properties that could establish ADUs, and adding standards to approve a junior ADU in a single-family dwelling. Amendments were also made to various other articles throughout the zoning code to clarify ADUs and junior ADUs as permitted uses in various zoning districts as required by the ADU bills, to add reference to junior ADUs in the coastal zoning combining district requirements processes, and to exempt ADUs and junior ADUs from requiring a historic preservation permit on applicable properties. On January 8, 2020, the Coastal Commission provided comments on the draft ordinance. Their comments and staff's responses have been distributed to the council members and made available to the public at the back table. The Coastal Commission comments included questions of why certain edits were made or to understand the purpose of the edits. Staff found that 3 revisions were appropriate in response to the Coastal Commission comments. These revisions are detailed in a supplemental staff report that was also distributed to the council and made available to the public at the back table. And I will review these revisions here. In comment 8, the Coastal Commission identified confusion between the last sentence in section 9-4.45 subsection A, which is the definition of an accessory dwelling unit, and the language in section 9-4.452 subsection H, which is the definition of a junior accessory dwelling unit. As explained in staff's response, Part A is explaining that the definition of an accessory dwelling unit does not include the definition of a junior accessory dwelling unit. And the language in Part H is explaining that, as required by law, a junior accessory dwelling unit may be combined with a newly constructed detached accessory dwelling unit. Staff recommends a revision to Part A as shown on the screen or in the supplemental staff report to avoid future interpretation conflicts. Revision 2 is in response to Coastal Commission's comment 7. They requested clarity in the existing space definition to understand the timing of when space is considered existing. In response, staff recommends a revision to the definition of existing space to include the term in existence to clarify the space has to exist with walls and a roof to be considered existing space. And that is shown above and in that staff report. The third revision is in response to Coastal Commission comments 6 and 13. The Commission requests that considerations of sensitive habitat and hazardous areas be considered in the findings for a coastal development permit for an ADU. Edits made to section 9-4.4306 subsection M subsection 3 mistakenly struck reference to section 9-4.4304 subsection K, which contain the standard findings for a coastal development permit. One of the standard findings is determining if the proposed project is in conformity with the city's certified local coastal program. Conformance with the local coastal program would require habitat surveys or technical surveys in applicable areas as defined in Article 44 Coastal Development Regulations of the Pacifica Municipal Code. Staff recommends correcting this strikeout as shown in the staff report and above. A second ordinance is also attached to the staff report, provided with amendments to Chapter 11 of Title 6, which covers the sewer connection charges, and Chapter 15 of Title 8, covering the traffic impact mitigation improvement funds for Highway 1 improvements. In accordance with ADU bills, traffic impact fees for JADUs and ADUs that are less than 750 square feet were removed, and ADUs 750 square feet or more will be charged proportionately in relation to the square footage of the primary dwelling unit. No sewer connection or impact charges are proposed to be applied to ADUs or JADUs. Staff recommends that council move to waive the first reading and introduce by title only both ordinances, including revising the zoning ordinance with the 3 revisions as suggested by staff. We are joined here tonight by Commissioner Big Stick, who is the staff liaison for this item, and we are, the commission liaison for this item, and we are here to help answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Sue Vaterlas, or were you first?
No, sorry.
Okay, Mary? Okay, Mike?
I apologize because we got this at like 6 o'clock. Not your fault, I understand. But in just reading this very quickly, it seems to me the Coastal Commission seems very lukewarm to ADUs. Am I reading that correctly, or they're doing it because they're being told to do it?
So there was a memo provided by Executive Director Ainsworth the last time, or one of the last times the ADU laws were amended in 17 that provided guidance. And I think that they are concerned about intensity of development in the coastal zone in general. At the same time, they are concerned about the coastal zone being accessible to all, including those of any income level. So I think that they are also concerned about affordable housing in the coastal zone. So I think that they have various competing interests, and perhaps that's what you're reading into as lukewarm.
Actually, again, just a quick perusal. The thing I have 3 questions about is his memo in 2017, which I don't think council saw this before, have we? Or do I just don't recollect?
I don't know that I don't know that the commission's comments had been, they had been so many in the past, and so you may
Right.
not have, it may not have been attached because it didn't occur to attach it.
Okay. On his memo dated April 18th, 2017, on page 2, in 2A, he has checks coastal development permit history for the site. And he states in here, the ADU statutes apply to residentially zoned lots that currently have a legally established single-family dwelling, determine whether a CDP was previously issued for development of the lot. Okay, so in Sharp Park, we have a lot of non-conforming uses. I mean, we just had one the other day come up. Does that mean most of Sharp Park, according to their interpretation, cannot have an ADU? Or am I reading that wrong?
No, I think most of Sharp Park will be able to have an ADU as long as they meet the development criteria.
But if it's a lot that is a non-conforming, because we had one a while back, if I remember correctly, that was zoned residential, but they did have, but they had a commercial business on it. It's the red house that I think they were doing marijuana. But that had a big enough lot that could potentially have an ADU on it. So that's a non-conforming use, and does this mean that they would not allow an ADU on that property?
I see. So I see now that I understand your question. I was thinking of a residential lot that may be smaller generally. That they would
Those also.
Those would be able to have ADUs. The site needs to be zoned for residential use. So if you're on a commercial lot, which was the red house that was before you for a cannabis business, that lot was zoned commercial, but the residential use was continued from long ago, so it was non-conforming. So that is not a residential use, right? So that would not, they would not have been able to hypothetically apply for an ADU.
Okay, because it was a non-conforming. So basically with section 2A, I'm reading that there are quite a few lots in Sharp Park that would not be able to have an ADU. Am I correct?
In terms of use, there could be. I mean, in the instance that you guys just went over, no, that wouldn't be eligible for an ADU. But if there was the size issue the size nonconformity is not an issue, that an ADU would still be able to be allowed there. For a commercial zone site, in order to create an ADU on that property, it would need a use permit allowing that residential use to occur on the site to make it a conforming site that would be able to accommodate an ADU.
Okay, so there would be the ability for them to change the zoning either to what is actually already on there or change it from what it is to what a residential with an ADU on it. Did I make myself clear, or maybe I'm confused?
I think an easy way to explain it is to say that what these new laws do essentially is grant a permitted right for certain types of ADUs. I think what you're saying is, are there a lot of non-conforming lots in Sharp Park that now under this new law would be allowed or not allowed? I think the better way to look at it is for those lots that are zoned currently as residential and they meet these standards that are in the new law, they will be permitted to build ADUs as ministerially, as a right. If they don't comply, if they're not zoned residential and they don't meet these standards, then they have to apply for a conditional use permit. Doesn't mean that they won't be able to, just means they won't be able to develop. It just means that they cannot develop as of right. They need to come in and go through a discretionary process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now going back to next item is page 3, item 2C. It says, An improvement does not qualify as exempt improvement if the improvements are the existing dwellings located on a beach, wetland, da-da-da-da-da, or within 50 feet of the edge of a coastal bluff. What's the definition of a coastal bluff?
It's the edge of the bluff where, well, it's where a bluff exists, where the,
Well, like Beach Boulevard here, is that a bluff?
It's an armored bluff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
short
okay, so most-
bluff, yeah.
A lot of the beach, okay, so if, let's see, in an area designated as highly scenic and a certified land use plan or within 50 feet the edge of a coastal bluff, it's, I'm trying to, again, we got this real late, and in addition, it basically says, if I read this correctly, especially along Esplanade and Beach Boulevard, is there extra hassles for those single-family homes, especially along Esplanade, that they are zoned residential, but they are within 50 feet of a bluff? So they are not exempt and will require to go to the Coastal Commission to get a permit to build an ADU?
that's correct.
That's,
And that's not necessarily specific to an ADU, any kind of improvement, they're under the same.
Not on Esplanade, those houses don't, they're in the coastal. There's apartments.
If they're 50 feet within the,
But he's talking about across the street from the bluff on Esplanade.
By the
if they're
post
within
office?
50 feet,
yeah, they're within 50 feet of the bluffs there, because there was a row of houses that's no longer there. But, so, those houses are single-family homes with a single-family home on it, so they're conforming. However, if I read this correctly, they won't be able to do an ADU, or without having to go to the Coastal Commission, am I correct?
I believe that's true.
He's asking if they have to go to the coastal commission. Just to clarify, what we were trying to say is that they need a CDP.
Right.
They don't have to go to the coastal commission.
So they would be able to get an administrative CDP from the city?
Yes, yes.
Okay, then the next thing is I think it's in item 2D on the same page, page 3. It said if you have, and I'm paraphrasing this here, is if you have in your local coastal plan a waiver provision and the proposed ADU meets the criteria for a CDP waiver, when we submitted the local coastal plan to the Coastal Commission, did we allow that we could put in a waiver for ADUs? Or did we comply with section 2D on this thing?
we don't have a waiver process.
So does that mean we need to do something with the local coastal plan we submitted to put a waiver process in there?
I think that's more of an implementation plan
Yeah,
amendment.
but we do have, in the draft LCP, we do include language to have a waiver process in the future, the implementation.
Okay, so is that something that council in the future will have to take some sort of action on?
I think it's just wrapped up in your action on the draft LCP that'll be coming up, and then the future implementation plan.
Okay, so you put a space holder in there, and now you're just going to fill the space holder for when we vote on the LCP in the future.
Right.
Am I understanding you correctly? Okay. That's all I was able to read in the hour. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your quick response to the Coastal Commission's questions and comments. I feel unprepared tonight because I just received these, and I don't like to feel unprepared. So I just don't like feeling this way. But I am curious, Commissioner Bigstick, if you had a chance to review these, the supplemental information that we just received tonight, did you have a chance to look at it at all?
So I just looked at it when I walked in the door. I was able to review 2 or 3 pages of it, but I haven't gone through it all, nor have I had much opportunity to think about it at all.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Anyone else? I actually have a question with regard to the meeting of the Planning Commission. in reviewing the minutes from that meeting and looking at the conversation and discussion that went on, I just want to clarify and to your introduction, what recommendations did you decide on with regard to the 4-foot setback on the back end of the property, the 10-foot between buildings? There was a lot of back and forth in that discussion, and I'm not sure I understand exactly what the final recommendation was.
Sure. So if I recall it correctly, I think the could have limited it to a 4-foot setback if we had wanted to, but we resolved to keep the 10-foot setback from 800 square feet or less, or excuse me, 800 square feet or more. And otherwise, the 4-foot would be fine for under that because, frankly, that's what the state was telling us we had to do to begin with. So in essence, what we tried to do was kind of keep things a little limited to what we had the capacity to limit it to. We felt that where we had to incorporate state standards, that was sufficient unto itself to kind of satisfy what the state was trying to accomplish by making it as easy as possible for ADUs to come in to address housing. And that way we could not necessarily let it blow out of proportion to the best of our ability.
So was the decision then to require 10 feet between the buildings?
So the discussion points, and Bonnie can jump in here, that you heard or saw at the Planning Commission had to do with the only ADUs that there is really any discretion or much discretion on, which is 800 square feet or more.
Right.
So in those instances, the Planning Commission opted to recommend that the council assert their discretion and add more requirements where they can.
Okay.
If you're developing an ADU under 800 square feet, you know, that's where you come into the smaller setbacks, only 4 feet, et cetera. So it is a little confusing that whole discussion was really about a subset of ADUs that the law allowed some discretion.
Okay, so that larger size, really. And so it's the 10 feet between the buildings, and what was the other consideration?
It was the requirement that the street width along the frontage of the property be at least 26 feet wide.
Right, okay. Thank you.
I've asked this question a couple times, but I never have seen anything in here regarding one-way streets. Since one-way streets are generally under 26 feet, fire trucks still go down them, but they are one-way. I know that there is something that says that you can build on less than 26 feet, but it requires different items. This was to me, I mean, we've gone over ADUs several times, and this whole thing was really confusing. I read it twice, and it was still confusing. The 26 feet also affects one-way streets, right? The width?
That's correct. The 26-foot standard came from fire code direction, even though it wasn't inserted because of fire concerns, but the width is a standard whether it's a one-way street or a two-way street, so that was carried forward.
And just to confirm that the 26-foot width is no longer a requirement.
Unless you build over 800.
Yes.
And they will allow it if you build an off-street parking, right? Is that what I read? No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other question was half a mile from transit. What's transit?
So there is a definition in the staff report, or in the code, that provides a definition of transit, which I can read. Public transit means a location, including but not limited to a bus stop, train station, where the public may access buses, trains, subways, or other forms of transportation that charge set fares run-on and fixed routes, and are available to the public. We have a subsection to that definition that says until, if section 65852.2 of the government code is amended subsequent to the effective date of this article to expressly permit the city to define public transit inclusive of minimum level of transit service, then the following definition shall replace the preceding definition in subsection M to mean defined transit station or stop with regular service intervals no longer than 30 minutes during peak commute hours of 6 to 9 a.m. or 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, identified in a publicly available map where passengers without reservation may board and disembark from a vehicle used in the public transit system, including without limitation a motor vehicle, streetcar, trackless trolley, bus, light rail, and it continues for the public that transport the members of the public for hire. And that is in subsection M of 9-4.451 and on packet page 110.
And so the highway is not in there because that wasn't included?
No, that's not
transit.
considered public
Okay.
transit.
I think that's it for this second.
Can you, for the public, talk a little bit about the parking requirements for ADUs and JADUs?
Sure. So as a result of these bills, we are only allowed to require parking in very limited instances. And it really results down to a detached ADU that is greater than 800 square feet in size and more than a half mile from public transit. Other than that, we can't require any parking for an ADU or a JADU. In the one instance that we can provide parking or require parking, we can only require one space.
Okay. And I don't know if we're allowed to ask this question, but will Senate Bill 50, will this affect Senate Bill 50 if that were to pass, or have no effect? Okay.
Say for sure, because we don't know what the final version of SB 50 will look like, but my understanding is that SB 50 would not impact these new revisions to the ADU law.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So, you have another question?
Sorry, I do. In here, it referenced a map showing red streets and other, maybe that was in the minutes. The smaller streets, the larger streets in color, and those were on a map for planning. But we didn't see those maps. Could we?
I have them in the screen behind you if you'd like. But yeah, those were for discussion purposes during Planning Commission.
Okay.
Would you like me to pull them up?
I'd like to look at them for a second.
All right, sure. So this is a citywide version of those maps, and then we can focus on different areas. I recall that the red orange represents streets with widths 20 feet to 26 feet, and red is streets with widths less than 20 feet wide. So there's an area of interest you want to focus on.
So a lot of Alomar and Sharp Park.
You go up one. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So if everyone appears finished asking questions for the moment, I will open up the public hearing. If anyone has anything, please fill out a yellow card. I don't have any yellow cards. I don't see anyone moving. So with that, I will close the public hearing and come back to council.
So I was kind of hoping to address our community member who came here tonight about his question, and it made me think about the one-stop shop, the ADU one-stop shop, which does address affordability. Could you maybe just explain that? So, because there is something that's going to be happening around affordability with ADUs, correct?
Right. So I apologize. I don't have the program details right at
That's okay.
Right at the tip of my tongue here, but the One-Stop Shop program provides technical support for anybody who's interested in, or actually for homes in the pilot program at least, homeowners who are interested in constructing an ADU, but they just need a little help getting across the finish line. And in exchange for the no-cost technical support, the ADU would be required to be affordable for, I believe it's 3 years, and then I could get the details at a later time about the affordability rate.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to address your concerns and let you know that I hear you.
So we do have two proposed actions here. Does anyone have any more comments or? Oh, Mike, you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, getting back to the memo of 2017 from Ainsworth, are we abiding by what he says here now? Has that been like the practice for the past?
Yeah, so we were aware of that memo when we brought previous revisions to the city council of our ADU ordinance. And so we have been in compliance and we continue to be in compliance. We wanted to take the time to provide a thorough response to each of the Coastal Commission's points, rather than just sending that out and not having any response. However, we do feel that their comments are not significant or would require, they're not significant other than a couple minor tweaks that actually we thought would improve our ordinance. And actually the reason why we attached Ainsworth's memo is some of their comments seem to be contradictory to the direction from their own executive director. So that's actually the reason why we attached the memo to our response to them. So it's a newer staff member. I think planners everywhere are still getting used to all of the new bills being passed.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
In page number 1, there's somebody mentioned parking, and there's number 4, parking in the coastal zone. And if I remember, you just said that we can't really, if I heard you correctly, you just said we can't have parking requirements for ADUs. Did I hear you correctly?
Right. Very, very few instances when we can require additional on-site parking.
Okay, then I'm kind of confused about what number 4 is on page 1 of the Coastal Commission comments, on the thing dated January 8th.
So you want to answer that? I will let Bonnie answer the question specifically, but also just remind the council that this was written before the newest round.
No, I understand you've revised it according to this, but I'm reading this and I'm kind of confused as to exactly what does it mean.
Sure. So comment number 4, directly their question is asking for us to confirm that the supplementary findings that they mentioned earlier in their comment will be applied to all ADUs and JADUs, even if exempt from the coastal development permit requirements. And as you'll find in our response, we've said no, findings are required to be applied to projects that don't trigger a coastal development permit. But I think what your larger question is in these instances, how do these findings apply? And so these findings were prepared to address the instances where in the areas of our coastal zone that where an ADU may be created and the off-street parking isn't being provided and someone's seeking to get a parking exception, This finding is, the first of the supplementary findings is addressing the impact from the off-street, the impact that it will have on off-street parking instances. The second finding is addressing instances where no parking is required. However, as a result, more on-street parking can be expected as a result of the ADU, and how will that affect the on-street parking. And both of these findings were prepared with the concern of public access to coastal resources being affected. And so that's what the findings are meant to address and consider in terms when this instance occurs.
So we almost have the state legislature saying you will build ADUs, you will not have a parking requirement. So basically people will be on the street, but then the Coastal Commission saying, well, we don't want them on the street because it's going to cut off parking for coastal access. So do we have, am I understanding that we have two state agencies kind of with contradictory information?
Yeah, it's definitely balancing two desires. So I think it's providing staff an opportunity and the city an opportunity to evaluate those impacts and seeing how the
Go
comes
crazy.
out.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. All right. I just thought that's what it meant, but I was confused. Thank you very much for clarifying it, Bonnie.
Okay, so we have two proposed actions on the table. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
So we're gonna do this in two separate actions, just as an FYI.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do number one.
Okay.
So I move to waive the first reading and introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pacifica amending Chapter 11 of Title 6. I'm on the right page, right?
Yeah.
I did that last time. That was horrible. Sewer connection charges, and Chapter 15 of Title 8, Traffic Impact Mitigation Improvement Fund for Highway 1 improvements, and finding adoption of the ordinance exempt from the California Environment Quality Act.
A second.
Okay, please vote. Motion passes. And do we have any action for?
I feel sorry. Oh, you
I
want
did
to?
too.
I just feel sorry for Mary.
I did too. I'll do it. Move to waive the first reading and introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pacifica, amending Article 4 of Chapter 4, R1, Single Family Residential District, amending Article 4.5 of Chapter 4, Accessory Dwelling Units, amending Article 5 of Chapter 4, R2, Two Family Residential District, amending Article 6 of Chapter 4, R3, Multifamily Residential District, amending Article 10 of Chapter 4, C1, Neighborhood Commercial, amending Article 11 of Chapter 4, C2, Community Commercial District, amending Article 22 of Chapter 4, Plan Development District, PD, amending Article 23 of Chapter 4, General Provisions and Exceptions, amending Article 30 of Chapter 4, Non-Conforming Lots, Structures and Uses, amending Article 32 of Chapter 4, Site Development Permits, amending Article 34 of Chapter 4, Variances, amending Article 43 of Chapter 4, Coastal Zone Combining District, amending Chapter 5, Growth Control, and amending Chapter 7, Historic Preservation, of Title 9 of the Pacifica Municipal Code, Text Amendment TA-117-19, and finding adoption of the ordinance exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA.
I second.
Please vote. Motion passes. All right, great. So we will move on to items for consideration. Number 7, we have a consideration of a prohibition on the sale of flavored tobacco products and e-cigarettes. We will be hearing a staff report from Chief Dan Steidle.
Not yet.
Pardon me, does anyone here have to recuse themselves?
Yes, actually I do. So I would like to explain myself. While I'm not legally required to do so, I have conferred with the city attorney, and I think for appearance's sake, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this item, both from the discussion and from the voting. It's a little too close for comfort for an application that our group has put in for tobacco funding, so thank you.
Thank you. Mary? Okay, so I think we're good. Chief Steidle?
That's what I was looking for.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Dan Steidle, your Chief of Police. And as you've already stated, we're going to have a discussion this evening regarding a potential flavored tobacco prohibition in the city of Pacifica. So a little background on getting here this evening. There have been many concerns about secondhand smoke and the attractiveness of flavored tobacco products to minors. This has drawn attention not only at the local level, but also at the federal and the state level. In previous conversation, council members Beer and O'Neill have requested this report to council for consideration regarding a potential ordinance prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products. This evening, the city manager is requesting council direction regarding a potential ordinance prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products in Pacifica. So as we begin this discussion, I wanted to briefly outline some definitions will be important, a good baseline for our discussion this evening. There are a couple of definitions that would be pertinent in our municipal code that are currently in our municipal code. The first is for an electronic smoking device, commonly known as an e-cigarette. That means an electronic and/or battery-operated device which can provide an inhalable dose of nicotine, cannabis, whether recreational or medicinal or otherwise vaporized liquids to the person inhaling the device, including but not limited to an electronic cigarette, cigar, pipe, or hookah. Electronic smoking device does not include any products specifically approved by the FDA for the use in the mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease. In our municipal code, a tobacco or nicotine product is defined as any substance containing tobacco leaf, including but not limited to cigarettes, cigars, pipe tobacco, hookah products, snuff, chewing tobacco, dipping tobacco, or any other preparation of tobacco, and any electronic cigarette or other electronic device used to generate smoke, and any product or formulation of matter containing biological active amounts of nicotine that is manufactured, sold, offered for sale, or otherwise distributed, with the exception that the product or matter will be introduced into the human body, but does not include any cessation product specifically approved by the FDA for use in treating nicotine or tobacco dependence. And finally, a tobacco retailer, according to our municipal code, is any person who sells or offers for sale or does offer to exchange for any form of consideration tobacco, tobacco products, or tobacco paraphernalia, or who distributes free or low-cost samples of tobacco products or tobacco paraphernalia. Tobacco retailing shall mean the doing of any of these things. The definition is without regard to the quantity of products or paraphernalia sold, offered for sale, exchanged, or offered for exchange. So again, trying to establish a baseline tonight regarding what we're talking about when we're talking about flavored tobacco products. I have taken some definitions from current ordinance, the San Mateo County ordinance, which was adopted by the County of San Mateo. Flavored tobacco product is defined as any product, any tobacco product that contains a constituent that imparts a characterizing flavor. And a constituent is defined as any ingredient, substance, chemical, or compound other than tobacco water or reconstituted tobacco sheet that is added by the manufacturer to a tobacco product during processing, manufacture, or packaging of the tobacco product. And the characterizing flavor that they speak of is a distinguishable taste or aroma or both other than the taste or aroma of tobacco imparted by a tobacco product or any byproduct produced by the tobacco product. These flavors include but are not limited to, and they list a whole bunch of different type of flavors that are commonly available, which also include menthol. A tobacco product should not be determined to have a characterizing flavor solely because of the use of additives or flavorings or the provision of ingredients information. Rather, it is the presence of that distinguishable taste or aroma or both, as described in the first sentence of the definition, that constitutes a characterizing flavor. So much of the attention that's been garnered at the local, state, and federal level has to do with youth access and marketing of flavored tobacco products to youth. According to Tobacco Free Kids in 2019, which is a nonprofit group that deals with access and use of tobacco nationwide with our children, they stated that tobacco industry documents reflect a history of developing and marketing products as youth starter products. Flavors reduce the harsh tobacco taste. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, also reducing the effects of the harsh tobacco taste. Flavors create a false impression that tobacco is less harmful than it really is. And the study suggested that, or stated that 81% of the youth who have ever used tobacco products started with flavored tobacco products. And many of you may have already heard about the controversy on the news regarding Juul Labs. They are the target of FDA action regarding business practices and marketing towards youth. In Washington, in July, there was July 2019, a House subcommittee hearing. Evidence was produced showing that Juul representatives told youth during a presentation that Juul products were safer than cigarettes, and the FDA was about to announce that Juul products were 99% safer than cigarettes, and we know that both of these are not true. The FDA never issued any such statement. The FDA issued Juul a warning letter regarding their products and practices in September 2019. I also included a copy of that letter as an attachment to the staff report. There's been much discussion about the health issues related to these products, health issues related to e-cigarettes. After reported deaths and hospitalizations of those using these products, including THC vaping products. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, is investigating these incidents. They've stated early on that a higher percentage of these incidents of illnesses and deaths involve black market purchasing of vaping products. No definitive conclusions have been reached at this point regarding the causes of these illnesses and deaths. And I wanted to make sure the council understood regarding the THC vaping products. Well, these are not FDA approved products. These are state approved products in that, if you recall, when we did the cannabis ordinance, we talked about the many different types of licenses that cannabis business owners can have. One of them is a state testing license, where they have a laboratory where cannabis products that are sold in legal cannabis businesses are tested for chemicals and to make sure that they follow the state standards for safety for their ingredients. The vaping products that are being sold in legal cannabis businesses in Pacifica adhere to the state standard through the state testing process. So advocates of e-cigarettes, on the other side of the coin, they've held that smoking these products can assist in smokers quitting smoking. In a 2019 Harvard Medical School publication, they indicated that there may be health benefits to a smoker who becomes a long-term vapor, if you will, in comparison to a long-term smoker. Although Harvard's medical school advised that this remains unproven. The FDA does call e-cigarettes unhealthy, but recommends those who vape not return to cigarettes. and they suggest that they seek FDA-approved smoking cessation products. Taking a look of some of the legislation that surrounds smoking products, the Family Smoking Prevention Act, which is federal, in October 2009, banned cigarettes with flavors other than tobacco or menthol. As it stands today, flavored e-cigarettes remain unregulated. New tobacco products must be authorized in a pre-market review by the FDA. However, currently there are no pre-market reviews have been conducted on any e-cigarette products, although I learned within the last couple of days that there are several that have pending applications. But again, there is no e-cigarette product on the market right now that has gone through that pre-market review. In September 2019, the Trump administration prioritized the problem of use of e-cigarette products, which included a prioritization of FDA enforcement on these products. And in January of this year, just several days ago, the FDA announced an enforcement policy against flavored e-cigarette products that do not have the pre-market authorization. Those three priorities are they intend to prioritize enforcement against illegally marketed e-cigarette products by focusing on the following groups of products that do not have pre-market authorization. The first being any flavored cartridge-based e-cigarette other than tobacco or menthol flavored. All other e-cigarette products for which manufacturer has failed to take or is failing to take adequate measures to prevent minor access. And any e-cigarette product that is targeted to minors or likely to promote use of e-cigarette by minors. At the state level, last year, SB 38 was introduced by Senator Jerry Hill with much pressure from and lobbying from the tobacco industry. That bill was watered down so much that even the health organizations that stood behind it withdrew their support for that bill, and the bill was shelved by Senator Hill himself. In September 2019, our governor, Gavin Newsom, pledged to assist state legislators in passing a ban on flavored tobacco products in 2020. You may have also heard about Measure C in San Francisco, which was originally pushed and funded by Juul. It was defeated in 2019. It would have partially overturned San Francisco's ordinance regarding regulating e-cigarettes and flavored tobacco. As their ordinance stands right now, as of this month, sales of e-cigarettes are prohibited in San Francisco unless the product has completed the pre-market review by the FDA. So taking a look at some ordinances in our county, there are a few jurisdictions that have ordinances regarding flavored tobacco. South San Francisco, flavored tobacco and all e-cigarettes, whether flavored or not, may only be sold at adult use businesses. South San Francisco is the only jurisdiction in San Mateo County with this type of provision in their ordinance. San Mateo County, as I spoke of earlier, also has a flavored tobacco ordinance which covers unincorporated San Mateo County, as well as the jurisdictions of Portola Valley, Half Moon Bay, and San Carlos, who also adopted the ordinance. It prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco products, including flavored e-cigarettes. So looking at staff time and priority considerations, should the council wish to move forward with an ordinance, staff time would be required to research and author the ordinance. The legal fees at this time are estimated to be approximately $6,000 for an ordinance prohibiting flavored tobacco. If a council wanted to entertain the prohibition on cannabis e-cigarette products, that number jumps to roughly $10,000. There will be staff time required to educate business and the public, as well as conduct compliance checks of tobacco retailers should an ordinance be adopted. There are currently 29 permitted businesses in Pacifica selling tobacco products. It will also require staff time to implement and manage the ordinance. We believe that is manageable time-wise with existing resources, but would additionally burden staff's workload related to other enforcement activities. Legal considerations. The California Constitution does allow us, of course, as a city, to make and enforce our ordinances. California Business and Professions Code allows us to enact tobacco retailing ordinances, which we already have, and allows for the suspension of those licenses for violating any state and tobacco law, and also to be considered. State legislators are likely to continue to draft legislation to address these issues that we've spoke about this evening. So in concluding the presentation tonight, some communities have adopted local ordinances prohibiting the sales of flavored tobacco products. There are state and federal prohibitions that are currently under consideration. This report is intended to guide council's consideration as to whether to expend staff time and money on an ordinance, and if so, whether to proceed now or wait to see how the state and federal legislation evolves. So if an ordinance is desired prior to state and federal legislation, questions to be answered this evening: should the ordinance focus only on the prohibition of flavored tobacco sales? Should the ordinance prohibit all e-cigarettes sales that have not undergone FDA pre-market review, or only flavored tobacco cartridges? Should the ordinance prohibit cannabis e-cigarette products, and any other variables that the council wishes to address this evening? And with that, I'd be happy to entertain questions.
Sue?
We got a very lengthy item regarding hookah and the fact that hookah is a cultural practice and never seen in a classroom. Apparently, Governor Newsom took it out of his bill, the hookah practice. I don't know what you think about that.
I'm not sure which bill they're referring to, because there isn't a bill that's being considered at this point, to my knowledge.
It's really long. In his executive order address on September 16th, it said he stated that hookah's not the problem. So, it doesn't say he removed it though. Just said it isn't a problem. This is a lengthy email that we got today. I don't know. I mean, are we taking away someone's culture that they normally do? That's just the question.
I received another email about that as well, so it was more than one.
My question on that is, what we're being asked to look at tonight is developing an ordinance prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products and electronic cigarettes in Pacifica. Do we sell hookah products in Pacifica?
It's on the very first
I'm
page.
seeing nodding heads, so yes, apparently we do. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Mike?
Has there been any outreach to the schools to find out what exactly is the vice of choice in terms of e-cigarettes and vaping and all that? Just, do you know what I mean? Is it the flavored stuff? Is it whatever it is in the schools? To be honest, I never used vape. I never, you know what I mean? I'm kind of a boring individual, so I've never done this stuff.
So to answer your question, we have not done any formal outreach, if you will, with the schools, but in our conversations with our schools, the informal conversations with the beat officers that go in and act as the resource officers and talk, there has been considerable conversation over the last few years and concern over the flavored products, the flavored vape products, which you can get them in different sizes. You can get them in ones that they look like USB flash drives, but they're really a smoking device. The idea, the concerns the schools have is that they are flavored tobacco products, and they are not easily identifiable unless you know what you're looking for. It's not back in the day when we went to high school, and if you got, I didn't smoke, but it was easy to catch somebody with a pack of cigarettes, but we all carry flash drives.
Yeah.
And Councilmember O'Neill, I'll add to that, just informally in conversations with the superintendents, both the elementary school, Pacifica School District, as well as high school, vaping is a concern, and then as the statistics show and the data shows, the flavored tobaccos are sort of the entry point for vaping. So, those are concerns that have been expressed from the school superintendents.
I've heard that anecdotally, but I've never, you know what I mean, was there a formal, type of thing about that? And if let's say we pass a ban or whatever, or prohibit it, I'm assuming the schools, would the schools then be able to suspend, expel? Well, I know they're really reluctant to do that, but would they call us? Would the fine happen to the parents? What would be the consequences of the vaping?
Well, to my understanding, it's given that a school-aged child can't purchase this type of product, it would be illegal for them to purchase this type of product. Whatever the school district's current administrative policies are on for possession for something like that, they could already take action on. What we were looking at when we looked at other ordinances did not talk about or did not speak to possession. We're not suggesting that the mere possession of the product should be unlawful. It is more of a question of what we want to be allowed to be sold in the community, and that's what the other jurisdictions that have addressed this already in our county have looked at. Not possession, but do we want it sold in our city or do we not?
So basically, there would not be a social host. What I'm hearing from you is there would not be a social host part of this then. An adult buys it, like you guys get the grant from the ABC about having, an adult buy it and give it to an 18-year-old.
Right.
Shoulder tapping. Shoulder tapping.
Shoulder tapping.
Yeah, shoulder tap or vice versa. So is that something that would not be part of this you envision, or is that something we put in? You know what I mean? I'm just.
Right. No, we have not looked at shoulder type tap operations for tobacco products. Now we do conduct once or twice a year operations where we send minors in, decoys in, to try and purchase tobacco products from tobacco retailers in our city. Yes, shoulder tap. That's something that we haven't looked into.
Okay. Well, that's basically what I was saying. Was that
I think if that was something that was becoming a problem that we needed to look into whether we could do something like that or not, I don't think, in my judgment, I don't think that it would be dependent on this ordinance, because whether or not this type of product would be allowed if to be sold in Pacifica or not wouldn't really be connected with a shoulder tap type of operation.
And if I could add to that, this is a little bit confusing and complicated, so I apologize. But again, one of the sort of the core ordinance consideration relates to the flavored tobacco products or cartridges, and so those wouldn't even be available if this ordinance were passed that way. Those wouldn't even be available for adults to buy unless there was a provision in the ordinance, like I think South San Francisco does, that allows them to be sold in adult-only stores. So the shoulder tap type of operation wouldn't even apply there, related to flavored tobacco products, but it could apply to normal tobacco.
I have a question. So you have to be 18 years old to purchase flavored tobacco.
21.
It has to be 21.
It's 21.
So, but right now they're sold at the liquor store or like Sun Valley Market or the Fog Shop.
Yes.
And so you don't need an ID to get into one of those shops, right?
That is correct. You don't. You would need ID or the merchants are supposed to be IDing people that look to be underage. But just walking into the shop, no.
Okay. Okay, so I guess these kids are getting access to this stuff the same way I got access to alcohol before I was 21, right?
Oh, heavens.
Right?
One of two ways, either through irresponsible merchants or more than likely friends of age or other adults.
Do fake IDs exist anymore?
I'm sorry?
Do fake IDs exist anymore?
Yes.
Yes.
That's all I have. Question. Sue, did you have another one?
No more questions.
So should I open the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I have a bunch of yellow cards here. So for the public hearing, I will open it now. I will read your name. You have 3 minutes to talk. You will be buzzed out, and I will rudely interrupt you and ask you to pipe down. Pun intended. So first up, we have Francesca, Mohesh, and Jesse.
Good evening, council members. My name is Francesca Lomaton, and I'm with San Mateo County Health's Tobacco Prevention Program. I just wanted to provide some tobacco-related educational information. According to the 2018 National Youth Tobacco Survey, between 2017 and 2018, the use of e-cigarettes among high schoolers increased by 78%. During this same time period, the e-cigarette use prevalence was 20.8% among San Mateo County and San Francisco high schoolers, while the statewide prevalence was 10.9%. Nearly 81% of youth ages 12 to 17 who had ever used a tobacco product reported that the first product they used was flavored. The County of San Mateo, Half Moon Bay, San Carlos, Portola Valley, Burlingame, and Menlo Park restrict the sale of all flavored tobacco, including menthol and mint-flavored tobacco products and flavored hookah, in all retail stores. Flavorings mask the harsh taste of tobacco, which makes it easier for youth to initiate tobacco use. Additionally, all these jurisdictions except Burlingame restrict tobacco products in pharmacies in order to reduce youth access and promote public health. Furthermore, on November 12, 2019, the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors adopted an ordinance that restricts the sale and distribution of e-cigarettes. Menlo Park also adopted e-cigarette restrictions in December 2019. Additionally, last year, the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors adopted an ordinance which restricts the sale of all vaping products, including cannabis vaping products, in their unincorporated areas. According to the CDC, as of January 7, 2020, there have been 2,602 lung injury cases across the U.S. that were associated with use of e-cigarettes, and there have been 57 deaths that have been confirmed, with more under investigation. Our program has provided assistance to cities that have adopted a restriction on the sale of flavored tobacco or e-cigarettes, and we are available to support the City of Pacifica as well. This may include support with providing retailer and community education, for example, sending letters to retailers to let them know about the ordinance, as well as visiting the retailers to provide more information. I hope this information is helpful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mohesh, Moseh, and Jesse, and Cynthia Knowles.
Good evening. My name is Mosin. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity.
Can you
to give
be a little closer to the microphone for the TV?
Sir, sorry, I got a very soft-spoken voice. Again, thank you, Your Honor, Mayor and council members, and thank you as well for bringing the subject up. I just wanted to come up here and just give my point of view on things, ways we can go about with the restrictions. I agree there should be a ban, and I also agree that kids should have no contact with vaping or flavored tobacco or anything like that. So what I would suggest is the City of South San Francisco, the ordinance that they had passed was only allowing the flavored tobaccos to be sold to adults at adult-only stores. So in order for the customers to purchase these products, they have to walk into an adult-only store, they have to show their ID and prove that they're over the age of 21 to make the purchase, versus 7-Eleven and Walgreens and these local grocery stores where a kid can just walk in and say, hey, I want to buy some ice cream, and he grabs the ice cream and sees the creamy whatever name of the ice cream and turns around and sees tobacco in the store named just like the ice cream. So that kind of gives him an idea. So then that's where I think the whole urge to want to pursue the flavored tobacco and everything else comes from that. But I feel like if we was to have an ordinance that basically only allows the adult stores, like the tobacco shops, strictly tobacco shops that don't sell candy or ice cream or sodas or juices and just sell adult-only products in their business, to be allowed to sell adult-only products to adults in the area. Because passing a complete ban, as a smoker, I would not like it because I would have to drive all the way to the closest city to buy the tobacco and come back home. And being a smoker of shisha and, okay, I got 1 minute, sorry. So yeah, so I come from a family where we smoke hookah together. It's shisha, it's flavored tobacco. It comes in a, about a 3-foot high pipe, and we sit, and whenever we have gatherings, that's something that we like to do. So in order to do that, I'd have to drive 30 minutes to get the hookah flavor to do that. So what I'm saying is that Pacifica has businesses that sell tobacco, and I think there's only 5 businesses that are strictly tobacco shops that don't sell ice cream, don't sell candy, and don't sell things that kids could go in there to buy. And in terms of the fake ID you had mentioned, there are devices that show counterfeit ID. So what I think you guys should pass is say, hey, flavored tobacco or flavored e-cigarettes could only be sold in these businesses, and these businesses must require to have these devices to, find counterfeit IDs and must be trained properly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jesse, Cynthia Knowles, and Lynn Adams.
Hello, my name is Jesse, and I'm standing here representing my boss, Sam. I work at a local retailer on Pedro Point, and I'd like to convey this message on his behalf. I'm trying to attend the meeting, but unfortunately I'm stuck in one of my restaurants cooking. We own a couple restaurants in the same walkway. Just want to ask you to please keep in consideration doing what South San Francisco has achieved and allow it in tobacco shops that are 21 and over and not general stores where everyone is allowed through the door, or to comply with what the state of California is going to do. I do understand the opposition's concern and am more than willing to adopt what Pacifica or the state of California intends. What South San Francisco did is allow 21 and over shops to continue to operate, and it will definitely help. Sorry, my handwriting's terrible, guys. My phone died, so I had to transcribe it. To operate will definitely help both parties without taking away adults' choice to vape. I serve not only myself, but adults in the community who are doing the same. People only see the negative side of this industry. The only thing brought up in the news is all bad, and more often than not, fraudulent. The lines between nicotine and black market THC vaping is blurred. I have also seen a lot of good come out of this store. We have helped a lot of people quit smoking cigarettes using the vape as a tool to do so, and eventually kick nicotine as a whole. One of my biggest concerns in Pacifica and the vape community as a whole is relapsing into the clutches of cigarettes again, a trade that many of us cannot afford on many levels. As well, shisha, a flavored tobacco that comes from the Middle East, is a big thing in my family, and it would be a shame if that part of our culture was taken from us in Pacifica. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cynthia Knowles, Lynn Adams, Tiger.
Good evening, council members. I can't see. I would support a ban on flavored cigarettes and e-cigarettes. But just listening to the comments here, they're very reasonable. I can't, I think it must be very difficult to have a nicotine addiction and then trying to resolve that maybe through a vaping product might be helping people. So I can understand how it can be beneficial. I just think whatever happens, it has to be done with utmost concern for public health possible. even though there's an age limit for the products, they're still getting in the hands of children. So, and we've all been hearing lately about the potential fatal effects and other public health effects. So it could be very costly from a health perspective, from a financial perspective too. We have to take care of people that are that are sick. But and my father died of lung cancer, and I'd really like not to be exposed to any secondhand smoke. But I know that I am exposed to that for people who are smoking cigarettes. But I think vaping products are somewhat, even driving in a car, if someone opens their window, it's in your car, you can smell it. So it's got a wide reach. So once again, just would like to avoid a public health issue and protect health in the best way possible. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Lynn Adams, Tiger, then Coco, and that's the last card I have.
We're really proud of us here in Pacifica having this conversation. I think it's really important that we do look at the health of people, but also the health of the environment. We're finding more and more vaping products on the beaches. We're finding more and more of them on the streets. It's in the news. People are dying of all ages, and they're dying quickly after starting vaping. So it's not safe. I think that we can be proactive. We do not need to condone it. I do respectfully respect if it's tradition in people's families, that I would be okay with. But I think vaping is really horrible, and I absolutely support the ban here in Pacifica. Thank you.
Tiger?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Trolls, Big Stick of Pacifica. I do not like tobacco. I think I like prohibition even less, though. At first, I figured this was about e-cigarette flavor, and it doesn't affect me directly. Didn't mind much, and I started thinking, well, what about those black and milds and the wine-flavored ones that I sell? And I thought, oh, again, not a huge concern. And then he brought up hookah, and I paused. I was like, oh yeah, that's flavored too, isn't it? So let me tell you about hookah, this tobacco's used in a hookah. You get in this pack, it's like usually tobacco mixed with honey in the flavoring. This is something that you wouldn't put in a regular pipe, you wouldn't put into an e-cigarette, you would not roll into a cigarette that you would smoke. It's something very specifically, you get your hookah, you pack it into a bowl thing, you put some foil over it and punch some holes, then you take a coal, stick it over, and now you're using it as a water pipe. Notably, this was my preferred method of using tobacco specifically because it precluded me from getting addicted. The reason being, it's such a process to put that together and then do it, and then it's, you sit there for a while and this isn't you pull it out of a pack and you're using it and you toss it. It's a process. And specifically, maybe once or twice I did this for myself. I prefer to have friends around because you pack that thing once, it's way more tobacco than you need in a sitting. So whatever you do, by all means preclude that from being a part of the process because culturally you have a reason and pragmatically there's a reason. After that, I'm not a big fan of prohibition in general. I think that disallowing adults from marching themselves towards death all the quicker however they like is not responsible governance. I do, however, respect anti-plastic measures because those Juul cigarettes, you can say, oh, well, there's little bits and pieces of plastic that are going to wind up on our beaches. So like, we did with straws and forks. Maybe we could do that with the parts of e-cigarettes that are otherwise disposable. Or how about a tax? I don't mind you taxing the crap out of a flavored product. You want it? Fine, you don't have to go anywhere. You have to pay for it. If you're gonna pay for medical costs, you also can pay ahead of time for the costs of doing this to So I think there's other options to addressing this, and I think that, are we talking about clove cigarettes when you talk about flavored? Are we talking about cured pipe tobacco that sometimes have various flavorings added? It's too large a swath, and I think there's more nimble means of getting the same result. Thank you.
Thank you. Coco?
So in regards to what the chief said, and the lady over there, there's not one person that actually has died from vaping e-cigarettes. It all has to do with the illicit THC, vitamin E acetate additives, black market. And another, there's so much to consume here with everybody's comments in regards to, how the kids, this is all about the kids, right? And we're all about our kids for the future. We don't want them to get anything that is adult. This is a 21 and over product. Kids are not supposed to have this, just like alcohol. Do we put fines for them? Yes, Palo Alto, City of Palo Alto is considering doing that. Anyone that's underage is in possession of a product that is an adult product should be fined, and their parents should be held accountable. Now, we're in a Bay Area right now. A lot of parents, as myself, a parent of 3 kids, have so much going on that there's not enough time to parent kids anymore like we used to. I grew up in Burlingame, and we had a little more time to actually be more involved with our kids. In addition to the internet, kids are gonna get whatever. No offense to anybody, we're boomers. Kids are using the internet to get all sorts of stuff. No one goes into a 21 and over store. Kids won't be able to have access to this. I myself, I'm a store owner in Millbrae. I have helped thousands and thousands of adult smokers like myself from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 to 40 years of smoking cigarettes. We all here, I think we have one family member, friend, or relative that has smoked, okay? You guys have to take that in consideration. This is a very revolutionary product. In College of Royal Physicians in the UK, Public Health, encourages their public, whoever is smoker, to transition to vaping. We're not adopting this here. Why are we not adopting this here? What's gonna happen is, if we ban flavors, which adults have utilized and transition over from cigarettes, are basically eventually gonna go back to cigarettes. We need to find a sensible resolution where we don't have these kids to have access to these products, but yet have the adults benefit and transition over from smoking. So please, take in consideration, look at everybody's comment, do a little bit some more research, and like the chief said, there's gonna be the PMTAs coming up in 6 months. There's state and federal regulations that are going on. So, take all this in consideration, and let's not, do an outright ban and a prohibition, which is gonna result to black market, and it's gonna be more public health. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments, I will close public hearing and bring it back to council. City attorney, do we have to vote on this, or are we just giving, we're just giving recommendations?
Need to give direction to staff. We don't need a formal motion, but we definitely need a consensus of a majority of the council is to give direction to staff.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Sue.
Do we have any idea when we think the state or the feds are going to go forward with these bans?
Well, first, on the federal level, I know that this has been something they've turned a blind eye to for a while, if you will. They've admitted that. It looks like with their work with the FDA, they're slowly starting to target it. I haven't read anything in any publications that says when they expect to, clamp down very hard on it. But they are the three types of enforcement they're looking at right now may make a dent in it. We'll see. It's in discussion right now. This is what they said their priorities are going to be. We just have to wait to see what they're going to do and how it progresses. To answer your question, it's kind of unknown at this point. At the state level, I would absolutely expect to see something sooner. I haven't seen anything come out yet, but I know that any new bills that come out, I believe there's a end of February deadline for this year for the bills to come out, so we would definitely know pretty soon if anything is going to come up or not.
Okay, when I came here, I expected, oh, no big deal, let's do it. I don't want the kids vaping, and the public actually kind of changed my mind. The 21 and over issue, I agree with Tiger. If you want to kill yourself faster, guess that's your choice. But I don't like it for the kids at all. And I can also see that kids can get anything on the internet. No one ever asks how old you are when you order on the internet. So they're gonna probably get it in some way. Hopefully not. So I can see the 21 and over. My idea would be to wait and see what the state's doing before we enact an ordinance and go through the expense of enacting an ordinance if the state's going to do the same thing. My opinion.
Mike or Sue, do either of you have any input?
I would like a definition of what 21 and over stores, how many, not specifically which ones, but how many 21 and over stores do we have in Pacifica that sell these products? If you know.
I do not know. Whether there are at least 4 or 5 tobacco-only type shops.
Which presumably have some ability to restrict who enters the store.
Yes, they certainly could do that.
But we don't know if they do now.
I do not know if they do that now.
Right. Whereas we know, for example, just saying, in the cannabis stores, they have a
yes, they must.
A guard, give me your ID, you're registered kind of process.
Yes. And if I may, since the question, there's been conversation about the adult only retailers. As I said, South San Francisco does have that in their ordinance. Their definition is any retailer or business that allows entry only by adults onto the entire premise of the business or retailer, or that require minors to be accompanied by a parent, guardian, or other adult in order to enter the entire premises of the business or retailer. And it also specifically says adult only does not include a business that has perhaps a section off portion of the store where there are certain products. That's not part of the definition. It's the entire store. Under 21 cannot enter unless they have someone of age with them.
Thank you.
So if you have a 21 and only store, that means Safeway could not sell it because their store is open to everybody. However, You Save Liquors or any bar would be able to sell it, correct? Because they're 21 and only over.
Right. Well, most of your liquor stores, you can enter the store under 21.
Right.
There are
that's
other
true.
products.
So bars would be forced to, and like, I know there's a smoke shop by Mazzetti's and a smoke shop in Lindemar. Those, is there an age restriction to those?
Section, yes, that there is an age restriction.
Oh, is there? Is it
We're getting a head nod, yes.
18, 21? Okay, thank you. Okay, so, so those would probably be the two most, them and bars would be the two most likely if we put a prohibition on adults only, correct?
And I'm not aware of any bars that have a tobacco license in our city.
Right, but would we have to put that in the ordinance to prohibit that then?
You know, it's been a long, I'll be quite frank with you, I would have to check the ABC law on that. It's been quite some time since I've seen cigarettes sold at a bar.
Yeah, I know, but
A machine where you pull.
yeah, but I mean, it's, you know, if you put 21 and only, that's
correct.
Them.
Correct.
Okay. E-cigarette sales, I would be pretty open to banning e-cigarette sales that have not been approved by the FDA. I'd be pretty open to that because they do need to go through some sort of licensing, given the issues. Should the ordinance prohibit cannabis e-cigarette products? Do we currently allow that under our ordinance?
Yes, state approved. As long as it's been through, as long as the Bureau of Cannabis Control says that they can, because the product is approved through a state testing lab, yes. I did reach out to our 2 open cannabis businesses right now. Lit on Palmetto stated that their sales of their cartridges for the THC vape type products accounted for about 21% of their sales right now. And the Fog Center said it was upwards of mid-20s to 35% of their sales. So they are being sold there.
And they're 21 and only also,
Yes.
right? Okay. And the prohibition of flavored tobacco sales, I'd have to think about that some more, to be perfectly honest, after hearing everybody there and stuff, so.
I will just add that I strongly favor providing good choices for children, for our youth. There's a big movement to remove sodas from schools and stuff. While it sounds ridiculous, children are making better choices now because we provide them with better choices. But at the same time, I also feel like restrictions on things that are so taboo encourages more use, similar to my obsession with trying to get alcohol before I was 21, right? So I think maybe if it wasn't so taboo, maybe I wouldn't have cared about it so much. So I mirror what Councilmember Varlas says, in that I think if we were to limit it to storefronts that are 21 and older, it would sort of be a pretty good compromise. I was in favor of opening cannabis shops here in the city, so people know that there are also health side effects to that. But again, I think the more we prohibit things, the harder it is, and for people to make that good, to make choices. So that's where I am.
Well, I think if you do prohibit too, you start getting more and more illegal stuff on the street. You know, I mean, it's just like fireworks here is a perfect example, you know. I mean,
Michael.
well, it's,
I know.
you know, and stuff, so.
So in terms of direction here, are we in agreement that, and I'm just saying this, that we think that we should focus only on flavored tobacco sales? I think we all sort of agreed to that. Should the ordinance prohibit all e-cigarette sales that have not undergone FDA pre-market review?
I feel that's a yes. Do we know, do I remember, none has been approved yet, right?
No. For over 21 also.
Right. But no FDA.
So in other words, you can't
pre-market.
buy an if you agree with this, number 2, then what you're saying is you can't buy an e-cigarette mechanism here in Pacifica right now, correct?
You could perhaps buy the mechanism, but I don't think you could provide what you attach to the mechanism.
Right.
But they could go to South City or any place else and buy it, right? If, you know.
South City actually has a ban on e-cigarettes completely.
Oh, okay. So,
South City, don't they have the over 21?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. South City has over 21, but their ban on the sales of it in other than the over 21 business is a flavored and e-cigarettes,
Okay.
whether flavored or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd support the ban of the,
Just curiosity, what are the legal challenges cities have faced in regards to this issue? Do you know any legal court cases or any precedents?
No court cases. I know San Francisco did face a challenge from Juul with regard to a referendum on their ban, and then that was rescinded. They retreated on that position. But there's no known court cases that have decided this issue.
Yeah.
So that's why we can't say that
So there's almost a thought of going with like the county ordinance, because the county ordinance, I mean, there's a lot of places that have adopted it, so, you know, I mean, I'm just throwing that out.
Can you remind us what the county ordinance is again? And also, if you could bring that slide up again that had the $6,000 and the $10,000 and the considerations.
So
Yeah,
the top paragraph there is the $6,000, $10,000 slide.
Got it.
6,000 estimated for an ordinance just prohibiting flavored tobacco.
Okay.
Okay. And the San Mateo County ordinance prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco products, including flavored e-cigarettes.
So they allow e-cigarettes even though the FDA has not approved them?
Yes,
Or-
I don't believe that their ordinance addresses that.
So basically, any e-cigarette's okay with them, with the county?
it's not okay.
It's not, it's as long as it's not a flavored e-cigarette, yes.
So e-cigarettes are okay with them?
unless they're flavored.
Right.
Correct.
Can you go back to our decision point, please?
Yes.
Okay, so we all agree on number one. We're sort of stuck here on number two.
If I might ask, because the notes that I wrote down previously, I thought that I don't want to put words in Councilmember Vaterlas's mouth, but I think she had expressed interest in potentially waiting on the ordinance. So I don't know if you want to try to address that first, because if the majority decision is to not wait and see how this evolves at the state and federal level, then these questions and answering these questions apply to give us direction to the ordinance that we need to draft and bring back.
And just for clarification, in my saying that I mirrored Sue Vaterlas's sentiments, I also concur with the idea of waiting to see what comes down. I'm willing to wait. So we've got another council member willing to wait.
I know, I'm not necessarily, I understand the logic and everything, but, you know, it's like state and federal government takes forever. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they're looking how long impeachment's been taking. I mean, it's like, you know.
Can we just put a ban on flavored tobacco sales and then wait?
Call it a day.
Can we make that recommendation?
Call it a day?
Well, I think
We still have to
sort of the considerations for the council about whether to wait or not relates to how we want to prioritize our financial and staff resources at this point in time. So, you know, just doing flavored tobacco would cost less than doing that and e-cigarettes in terms of developing the ordinance, but then the implementation of it has the same impact. So I don't know that you know, you obviously have that option. I don't know that it achieves the policy balance that you might be considering about whether to wait or not. I mean, if we wait, you could say, well, we kind of want to wait and see what happens, but we'll put a deadline on that. You know, if nothing happens in the next 6 months at the federal or state level, or 9 months, then we want to come back at this. That would be an alternative for the council to consider. And then if, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to suggest is the deadline for submitting legislation to the state legislatures the 3rd week of February.
Right.
So if we maybe have staff check with Jackie Spears' office, maybe we give to, if there's no legislation from the state or federal government by April 30th, then we decide. It comes back to us. I'm throwing that out as a suggestion.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we have consensus that we'll wait, except our deadline would be April 30th for a decision from the state on what's going to happen from their perspective.
Yeah, we'll know what legislation has been introduced at that point at the state level, and if Jackie would know if there's anything happening at the federal level.
So the deadline is
April 30th?
April 30th.
Is there 30 days as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
First meeting in May, I guess. Shoot for bringing it back to us.
Right, okay. And then I think all of these variables that are identified here, the conversation has obviously been productive to delve into it, but at that point in time, we'd bring back and dig a little bit more into the variables to understand what direction is necessary.
Okay, so do we still need a proposed action? No? Okay.
I think we've got it, yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can call Mary back in, and it's 9:50. Can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Is that all I need to say to take a break? Okay, thanks. City and authorize the city manager to confirm intent to adopt vehicle miles traveled reduction policies for the Sharp Park specific plan, PDA. Priority
Thank
development
you,
area.
Mayor and council members. My name is Tina Wehrmeister. I'm the planning director. And before you is consideration of adoption of 3 resolutions nominating 2 priority development areas and 1 priority production area within the city. So first I'll define these terms and then explain each of the areas within the city. So priority development areas known as PDAs and priority production areas known as PPAs are designations created and used by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Association of Bay Area Governments in their regional planning efforts and documents. And they're experts at acronyms, creating a lot of acronyms that we use. These are self-selected by local jurisdictions and are not imposed by the regional agencies. Jurisdictions with PDAs and PPAs have access to regional funding for housing, jobs, infrastructure improvements, and other future investments. Priority development areas are areas within existing communities that have been identified for future growth. They are accessible by transit services and are often located near established job centers, shopping districts, and other services. Priority production areas, this is a new pilot program, a pilot designation, and it is intended to support strong clusters of the region's economy through supportive resources and implementation actions, encourage middle-wage job growth close to affordable housing, and support networks of production, distribution, and repair services. So now I'll review the 3 proposed areas in Pacifica. So the first proposal is for the Sharp Park specific plan, PDA area, PDA. This area has significant opportunity for economic development and new housing that will help the city address issues of housing availability and affordability, and create a center of gravity for the broader Pacifica community as well as visitors. It's the city's civic core, and it's home to many unique businesses and recreational opportunities. For all of these reasons, the city is also currently preparing a specific plan for the Sharp Park area. And the proposed PDA geographic area is the same as the specific planning area. In order to qualify for a PDA under the new criteria established by MTC and ABAG, staff worked collaboratively with Samtrans to agree to future bus service enhancement for Sharp Park to provide 30-minute frequency peak hour, 30-minute headways, 30-minute frequency of buses during peak hours. And we were only kind of slightly off of that to qualify, and so Samtrans has agreed to make some adjustments in the future. It won't happen immediately, and they've written a letter of support for our nomination of a Sharp Park PDA. The Sharp Park PDA also requires adoption of vehicle miles traveled reduction policies, which in simple terms means policies that encourage reduction of vehicle travel and encourages alternative transportation modes. So the recommended motion, if this is what the council wants to do, would include authorizing the city manager to confirm that the city is comfortable and intends to adopt VMT reduction policies for Sharp Park in the future. So on to the Skyline Corridor Priority Development Area. It's included within this recommendation since it fit the MTC ABAG criteria. Wasn't necessarily on our radar, but we noticed that it was on their mapping as an area that fits PDA criteria. The Skyline Corridor PDA extends along Highway 35 for 2 miles from Highway 1 to the Sharp Park Road. The area includes single-family, multifamily, and commercial areas, as well as several parks and a school. This area was likely identified by the regional agencies as a high-resource area due to its close proximity to jobs and transportation in the San Bruno area generally. And as a high-resource area, this PDA does not require the intent to adopt vehicle miles traveled reduction policies. We could, there's nothing wrong with them, but it doesn't require that letter from the city manager. So it's important for the council to note that PDAs do require that a specific plan or other planning document to support future development of the area be prepared, and planning resources would need to be directed to such efforts if the council did want to establish a Skyline Corridor PDA. One benefit is that there may be grant funding to complete those planning efforts available. The proposed Northern Palmetto Avenue Priority Production Area is recommended for nomination as it is one of the few remaining areas available for service commercial uses in Pacifica. Existing development in the area includes light industrial, auto-related uses, and these are important to meet some of our community's needs. The Northern Palmetto PPA includes 11 parcels to the east of Palmetto, bounded by Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School to the south, and then north to the corner where Palmetto and Highway 1 meet. So in summary, staff has prepared 3 PDA and PPA nominations for your consideration. The Sharp Park area nomination has been on the City Council work plan for several years. However, a nomination period has not been reopened by the regional agencies since 2014. And due to that long time span between nomination periods, when we realized that we had 2 other, one PDA, one PPA, available for your consideration, we wanted to make sure that you had the option to make these nominations now in case they didn't come around for a while and that the city didn't miss out on anything. So the recommended action is to adopt the resolutions before you and authorize the city manager to write the intent to adopt VMT for the Sharp Park area. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mike?
Okay, and the proposed Skyline corridor, that's like never been mentioned before. And, because the other side of Skyline is San Bruno and South San Francisco, so we're really only talking about the Pacifica side, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and the school you mentioned, Fairmont Elementary School, is closed and sold to SI.
Right. I was looking at that too.
So.
Sunset Ridge.
It's Sunset
But there
Ridge.
is, well, if their grant is, if they're applying for the grant, they should put the school that's active,
Correct.
not the one that's closed.
Exactly. So I'm looking at the map on packet page 220, and I'm trying to find where Sunset Ridge School should be. It shouldn't be that hard, but I'm having trouble.
If you go up Hickey,
Yeah. Oh, this big area here, that,
I think so.
by Gateway Drive? Oh, yeah, because it goes up to
It was
Gateway.
Imperial Park.
No, I'm looking, I think it's above that.
I see the school, it's barely visible on the aerial. It's just below the blue line. So if you look at Hickey, and it's to the right of Hickey.
Oh, that,
It's below Gateway, though.
this. So this? So that means it's not part in the zone. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not in there. This was our best estimation of where this PDA should be. We can adjust the map. I would also say that the line, I noticed today that the line adjacent to or along 35 should probably go to 35 in case there's any excess right-of-way from Caltrans.
It's a good line, yeah. That makes sense to me. And so, Mike, what you're saying is basically Fairmont Elementary School should be taken off and taken out of the PDA language.
Right, if you're gonna apply for, you should put the active school there.
And I guess I'd like to make maybe some clarifying comments here. One, you're correct, and I think we wanted to make sure you had this option because PDA nominations don't seem to come around very frequently. If this is not an area that you feel should be a PDA, that's fine to take a separate action on each of the items and not nominate this area. I don't envision that the entire area would be redeveloped because there's so many existing single-family homes there. I think that perhaps there's a larger shopping center that there might be a more focused planning for increased density and additional commercial uses in that really focused area here.
That's basically what my question was, is what do you envision in the PDA? Because, it's either parkland or single-family
Right.
homes, and that was my concern. And then I also wanted to ask,
It's all open.
did you consider at all, because I agree with like the North Palmetto section and stuff like that, but we do have the Lindemar, Pedro Point, and Crespi Center, and the Crespi Center C3, and then I know the owner of the Kenny's, the old Central Foods, has talked to me about what they might want to do something there. And I was just wondering, and if you get more frequent bus service because of, if it's a PDA, I was just talking about, did staff have any consideration or thoughts about Lindemar, Pedro Point, and Crespi area?
Yeah, so we did look at, we did discuss internally the Crespi Business Park because that is C3. And going back to the discussion that the council, and we recognize the owner's wishes to make sure that his current tenants are not considered non-conforming and have some issue re-tenanting the space. But we did note that was council's desire, and we were going to write policies there, but also leave it open to be something else if that's what ultimately happens with that site. It changes ownership. So that's why we didn't put it forward as a PPA area.
Because actually, I was even thinking of the Seabowl area too. There's still area there that you could probably put another business or whatever there.
And just to confirm, just to clarify, the additional bus service isn't happening because we're nominating it as a PDA. This was something that Samtrans agreed to work with us on because we were so close, and I think they were already intending to provide more service to Sharp Park. So by nominating the PDA doesn't mean that you automatically get extra bus service to qualify.
Actually a
you.
requirement, isn't
It's
it?
actually a requirement first.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question was, as you were saying about the discussion and everything, you had you mentioned in there growth. Let's see, that local city or county governments have identified and approved for future growth. Define growth. Is that basically what we're trying to do in Sharp Park, is
Yes.
the definition of growth? Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any other questions?
On Exhibit 1 on the map for Palmetto for the PPA, the other side too,
Eureka Square?
this is, no. If you go up further, like Sharon Way on that side,
Right, the
isn't
draft.
that a lot of commercial on that side also?
Right, the draft general plan currently is showing that as future transitioning to visitor serving commercial area. So that's why that wasn't included. But you're right, currently it is
Okay.
light industrial type uses.
Thank you.
Should we open up for public comment? Okay. I don't see any cards. Does anyone have anything? Okay, I will close public comment and bring it back to council. Mike, you want to make a motion?
Anybody?
Wait, can I ask one more question?
Oh, yeah, no, you can. I just was-
Like the Skyline area, which is mostly single family, would that give people the opportunity, like in redevelopment, to modify the existing homes? Does that help with that or not at all?
No, I have not seen any programs that would help with that in the current implementation of PDAs by the regional agencies.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about this, interacting the Sharp Park one and the Palmetto one, the interaction between this and the local coastal plan. Is that, can they coexist? Because
Yes,
you're
yes.
actually between existing development and new development, et cetera. So there is an opportunity, they can coexist?
Yes, they can.
Okay, all right. So I'll make a motion unless somebody else is.
Before the motion is made, I just wanted to clarify regarding the Skyline area PDA, there were a few comments. I don't know if you were going to clarify that in your motion, but one was Director Wermeister mentioned the boundary moving out all the way to Skyline Boulevard. And then there was comment about Fairmont School as well as Sunset Ridge, and changing the boundaries related to those. And kind of one question maybe again for Director Wermeister is there a benefit to removing an area out of the PDA? In other words, if Fairmont School remained in the boundary, is there a difference or does it matter?
So ultimately, the PDA, to keep in mind, the background of the PDAs is to, first of all, is to implement SB 365, if I have that correctly, and to integrate a regional transportation and planning plans with reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And so then secondarily is it's allowing the local jurisdictions to tell ABAG and MTC where that growth is going to happen instead of it coming the other way, and they're kind of telling the local agencies. So I think that a school in a PDA would make sense if it's going to be more walkable for folks living in higher density areas to get to school without having to be driven there, or if the school is going to be redeveloped, if it's not an active school site and it's part of the redevelopment.
So would you want us to request a change to the boundaries as part of the motion? Because in order to get Sunset Ridge School into that area, it looks like we'd have to have the road go on Hickey Boulevard over and follow like Monterey Road up to Manor.
Yeah, so they're very lightly are not shown on this map, but this was parcel specific, so we can redraw this map that it doesn't have to go down to Monterey. We can just include the Sunset Ridge School, the parcels or parcel that is on.
And Tina, did you also say that we could adopt a vehicle miles traveled reduction policy for the Skyline PDA or PDA?
Yeah, it's that's certainly within the council's direction or discretion, excuse me, anytime. But it doesn't need to go to ABAG MTC, and it won't affect the nomination because it's not required for that area.
It would be nice to have it stated, however.
Yeah, no, I think it matches with this, and there may be other places in our other work where we need to include it there too.
Okay, so whoever makes a motion will need to make note of that? Is that what I heard?
So I'll go with the easy one first. Propose adopt a resolution nominating the Sharp Park specific plan area as a priority development area and authorize the city manager to confirm intent to adopt vehicle miles traveled reduction policies for this area. We can do it all in one motion? Oh, and adopt the resolution nominating the Skyline Corridor area as priority development area and authorize the city manager to confirm intent to adopt vehicle miles traveled and include the Sunset Ridge School in there and extend the boundaries to Highway 1 and Skyline. And adopt the resolution nominating the North Palmetto area as a priority production area.
Second.
Please vote.
That was loud.
That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina.
So we will move on to item number 9, consideration of adoption of a resolution approving the Second Amendment to employee agreement between the City of Pacifica and Kevin Woodhouse as city manager. Do we have a report?
Yes. As the council is aware, back in September 2017, the city and the city manager entered into an employment agreement where Kevin Woodhouse would become the city manager, City of Pacifica. That employment agreement was amended in November of 2018. That agreement does provide for annual performance evaluations and consideration of possible merit increases. A formal performance evaluation was held on December 9th. At that time, the City Council performed a performance evaluation and then formed a subcommittee of the council that was made up of the mayor and Councilmember O'Neill to negotiate amendments to the city manager's employment agreement with the city manager. Following those discussions with the city manager, the council subcommittee gave direction to me to prepare the attached Second Amendment to the employment agreement. You will see that the Second Amendment provides for an increase in salary and an increase in the annual deferred compensation paid to the city manager. The annual, according to the Second Amendment, the annual base salary for the city manager would be increased by 5% to $235,620. This 5% increase is based on a 2% salary increase, which equals the increase provided to other city employees following labor negotiations, as well as a 3% equity adjustment due to the city manager's current total compensation being 12% below median for comparable cities in the county. Second Amendment also provides for a $2,244 increase to the city manager's deferred compensation, which would increase his annual deferred comp payment to $6,244. These adjustments to the city manager's compensation would result in the city manager's total compensation being 7.5% below median for comparable cities in the county. The council is asked to approve the attached resolution, which approves the Second Amendment and authorizes the mayor to execute the employment agreement between the city and City Manager Woodhouse. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Should I open it up for comment? Do we have public comment? Any comments? I don't see any yellow cards. I will close public comment. Back to council. I would just like to add thank you to City Manager Kevin Woodhouse for all your hard work throughout the year.
And I would like to add a thank you to the subcommittee for working this out. And I would like to make a motion. I move that, where to go? The recommended action to adopt the resolution, no, wait, yes. Approving the Second Amendment to employment agreement between the City of Pacifica and Kevin Woodhouse.
A second.
Please vote. Okay, and that motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 10, the fun stuff. 2020 City Council Liaison and Committee Assignments. So we have our, every year we meet and we update our City Council Liaison assignment and committee assignments for the upcoming year. And I'd like to open the floor for discussion if anybody is seeking any changes, or do you have a staff report? My apologies.
I'm sorry, Mayor Martin, I just wanted to note a few scheduling updates with respect to this item for your consideration as you deliberate on the assignments. For the item listed as the ABAG General Assembly delegate, in past years, the council has appointed a council representative as well as a council alternate, although last year in 2019, no alternate was selected. There is an upcoming special meeting of the ABAG General Assembly that is occurring on February 7th, 2020. So to keep that in mind for availability for the delegate and or alternate as that comes up. In past years, the ABAG General Assembly regular meetings have occurred in late May or early June of each year, and those are daytime meetings.
If I may, I'd also like to point out that one of the committees listed here no longer exists. That's the CCAG San Mateo County Water Coordination Committee that Councilmember Vaterlos formerly served on. That's been segued into the Flood and Sea Level Rise Resiliency Agency Board, which is not a liaison assignment for us.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
I have a question or comment. So I was the representative for a couple of different ones that I never received any information on and never invited to any meetings. And so one of them was Pacifica School Volunteers, which I would really love to attend, but I didn't get any information about that and didn't see anything here. And then the other one was the Housing Our People Effectively, the HOPE. So I would still love to serve on them. I just would like information about when that's going to happen. Calendar it.
With regard to Pacifica School Volunteers, I wanted to let you know I'm on that board.
Oh.
And I don't think there's any problem with having both of us there. If you're acting as the council liaison, I just want you to know I'm also going to be there.
Great. Okay.
So you can give Mary the information on the
I have
dates.
some dates. I can tell you when they are.
Okay.
And how about the Housing and Hope? Is that something that maybe city clerk could look into?
Yeah, I can follow up on getting information about when those meetings are and making sure that the information comes to the correct council member.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So, Sue Varlas, do you have any?
So ABAG, I've served on ABAG for about 3 years, but I cannot attend the special meeting. I'm going to be out of town. So if someone else wants to do ABAG,
I can do ABAG.
okay.
Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Very okay.
Sold to the next highest bidder.
And there's
I've been in one of those.
Okay.
No.
alternate for that?
So do we have an alternate? No. We can have an empty box.
If we don't have an alternate, and then say Sue Beckmeyer can't make it, we can't send an alternate.
So the ABAG General Assembly allows for an alternate to be selected, so even if you haven't designated an alternate in your liaisons here, then you could designate an alternate via, a voting delegate form.
Okay, that's great.
I'll be the alternate.
Okay, so Sue Varlas will be the alternate. Okay. Do you have any other wants, wishes, desires? Anyone?
I'd like to stay on the committees I'm on.
I would like to stay on beautification. And yeah, the committees I'm on.
Okay, Mike?
I'm okay.
Gary?
I'm okay.
That was easy.
How about you?
Same. I like, I'd like to do it again, you know what I mean? It's nice to have, like, you get a year in, but then you're like sort of hitting your stride, and then, oh, cool, we get to do it another year. So I feel good about that, and I'm happy that we all agree.
So you're going to do Fog Fest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That'll be interesting this year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, City Clerk, do you have direction? I have to open it up to a comment, to...
Yes, and then we should have a motion approving
Right, okay.
the liaison.
Thank you. So I will open it up to public comment. I have no cards. Would you like to make a comment? No. Okay, I will close public comment, come back to council.
Mayor Martin, I just wanted to make note of one other edit that I'm showing on the form was for the Council of Cities, changing the designation of vice chair to chair for Councilmember Vaterlaus.
Okay, and can I ask a question about that?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For those meetings, if you are there, you will always be the voting party, right? Do I need to fill out anything?
Not unless you give me the proxy to be able to vote.
Okay, so you can't vote even though you're chair?
Yeah,
You're mayor.
correct.
So, okay, so, we'll talk.
Okay.
Council of Cities is very difficult for me to meet. Fridays is almost off limit unless it's like a local Pacifica thing that I can bring my kids to, so.
So, Mayor Martin, for the Council of Cities, there is an option that they provide to designate a voting alternate.
Okay.
A voting alternate for the remainder of the year in your place.
Okay, and would you be okay with that? Okay. Thanks.
Ruby.
Everyone okay with that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I will look for a motion. Yes.
Oh.
I move to accept the council liaison and committee assignments as directed. Is that good?
You have that? You have it? Yeah, okay. I'll second.
Was that a second?
I'll second.
Please vote. Great, that motion passes. Thank you all. That was great. I am going to adjourn the meeting at 10:27 PM. Thank you all.
Good work, Deirdre.
Nice one.